Well, that was a nice win yesterday for the Kansas City Royals. The home opener, of course, out at the K. We were there broadcasting yesterday, and what was a beautiful day for Major League Baseball. Royals win their second straight. They're 2-2 on the season. 3-1 victory over the Minnesota Twins. It was extra nice to have the game on KCTV5 here locally, which, as a result, I was able to watch, which I know if you have one of the cord-cutting services, Hulu, YouTube TV, you just don't get the Kansas City Royals. But it was nice to have on the sounds of Major League Baseball yesterday as I'm walking around the house in between kids screaming and needing diaper changes at like 4:30 in the afternoon when my life is the most chaotic, hearing the crack of the bat, hearing Isaac Collins go yard and Kyle Isbell and the whole deal, that was a lot of fun. Now, Mark, I don't think that the big parlay you cooked up at the end of Keatsman's show hit yesterday, did it?
No, it was close.
Oh, it was close?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I needed a Bobby Witt hit.
Oh, is that what you needed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't work out.
Well, I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that, Mark. It is a busy Tuesday. Harris Faulkner is going to join us from Fox News at 7:30 this morning here on KCMO. Do not miss that conversation. It's been a little bit since we've had a chat with Harris, so she will join us in 90 minutes here on KCMO. Now, speaking of baseball, we're all in the mood. We're all in the spirit of starting the season. Yesterday, great win for the Royals. There was this piece in the New York Times I want to share with you, an opinion piece headlined, "Help, my favorite athlete is an idiot." What is this article about? This article, this opinion piece in the New York Times by a guy named Devin Gordon, is him bemoaning the fact that he has found out too many athletes like and or voted for Donald Trump.
Talk about a bombshell.
Yes. I mean, it is a several hundred-word article of this guy. Not like, remember, when you go back 10 years to the Colin Kaepernick days and you go back to, that era of professional sports, the idea was, hey, do what you want, but we don't want you doing it on the field, right? That was the main thing that a lot of people who disagreed with Colin Kaepernick and his approach, which included myself, were upset with. Not that he had all these beliefs. I mean, that's America. I disagree with your beliefs. You can disagree with mine. That's what makes the world go round. But you have the right to have those beliefs. But now we're in a place where you've got big op-eds being written about and written in the New York Times by individuals named Devin Gordon. And they're just mad that Trump people exist on their favorite sports teams. That's what they're upset about. There's an excerpt from this article that I wanted to share with you. And it's this guy, and it's pathetic to admit that he's a Mets fan like me. But you know what? It's okay. We can't all be perfect, all right? But it is pretty pathetic that this guy admits to being a Mets fan in this New York Times piece. But he goes on to note that he talked to all his buddies, and, his one friend who's a Yankees fan said the entire 2025 season was soured for him after the franchise decided to hold a pregame moment of silence at Yankee Stadium after Charlie Kirk's death, conscripting all in attendance or watching from home into paying their respects to the memory of a political activist with highly polarizing opinions. My friend barely shrugged when his team later lost in the playoffs, he told me, because he'd already emotionally checked out of the season and could not recommit. What an absolute soy boy clown. So because your favorite team had a moment of silence for a young father and husband who was tragically assassinated for the world to see, you got so bent out of shape that you stopped caring about the New York Yankees season? Do I have that right? I think I do. The article goes on to note that there was a rumor that the New York Mets last year had a fracture in the clubhouse because you had a lot of Trump guys and then you had a lot of anti-Trump, never Trump TDS guys, whatever you want to call them. and that led to the team collapsing down the stretch. Now, anyone who's a longtime Mets fan knows that, no, once you just put on the Mets uniform, you naturally collapse down the stretch. You don't need to have divisions about politics in the clubhouse. You just don't need it. It's in your DNA once you put on that uniform. But this is how the real world works. You know, this idea of like, oh boy, I don't really want to know what my favorite athlete thinks about politics, and that doesn't make me feel good about my team. As long as the athlete is not doing it on the field with the uniform on, you should not care. I compare it to what's going on right now with Bruce Springsteen, right? Springsteen's going on this tour that he has made it very clear is hyper-political, anti-Trump derangement nonsense. Now, he has every right to do it. I'm not paying a dime to go see it. And I've spent thousands of dollars during my lifetime to go watch Bruce Springsteen. I won't do it on this tour. I mean, you could give me a ticket for free, and I probably wouldn't go. I don't want to be subject to that. It's the same thing in sports. People don't want it on the field. What you do in your personal time, who you give your money to, maybe you volunteer for an organization or a cause that you're passionate about. We see that with the Royals here in Kansas City. There are plenty of guys on the Royals who we all know. Maybe they're not diehard MAGA guys, but they certainly have no issue with Donald Trump and probably voted for him. That's also how the world works. I work in a workplace with 6 other radio stations. There are plenty of people that I work with who don't see the world the way I do, don't see the country the way I do. Don't like Donald Trump. That's okay. We still work together. We do our jobs. We're adults. We're big boys. And, you know, when it comes to whether it's ratings or revenue for any of our radio stations, we work together to service our clients, to make sure people are being taken care of. That's how the real world operates. But for some reason in sports, we have this belief that everybody has to be on the same page on every single thing. From the star player to the last guy on the roster to the thousands of fans. And that's just not the real world. And it never has been. And by the way, it shouldn't be. At least not in America, where we're a country that is literally a mixed bag of opinions from the left to the right to everything in between to libertarian. That's what makes it great in so many respects. So as we kick off and start the Major League Baseball season, and the Royals now, of course, have a couple of wins under their belt, and you have this absurd piece in the New York Times headlined, "Help, my favorite athlete is an idiot." And of course, that athlete is an idiot in the eyes of the author because, well, some athletes on his favorite team may ultimately like Donald Trump is very telling. Very telling. The same people cheering Colin Kaepernick are now mad that they found out some people in pro sports, some red-blooded, super testosterone-juiced, all-American guys like Donald Trump has just ruined their baseball season before it's even started. And guys, I'm here to tell you, or gals, I'm here to tell you, that was always the case, okay? And by the way, once you got to a place where one political party started saying that dudes should play in women's sports, you definitely lost the plot line with a bunch of red-blooded, all-American guys who just want to play sports for a living and be macho men. 913-408-7957. Let's kick it off. We didn't get to many callers yesterday because we were out at the K doing a bunch of interviews. So let's just say hi to Mike. He's in Kansas City. What's up, my man?
You know, these kind of comments say more about the commenter than it does what the people are talking about. They're very insecure in their hating Trump position.
Yes.
They've been indoctrinated to dogmatically say they hate Trump, but they don't really know why. I remember the interviews I was seeing on TV yesterday about the No King's Protest or whatever that silly thing they were doing. They were asking him, well, what don't you like about Trump? Well, I don't like anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did he do wrong? Well, there were 30 things published yesterday about him. Well, what were they? Well, I don't remember them. All they know, they've been conditioned dogmatically to hate Trump. And it really reminds me of some of that old footage that you saw, out of the Ku Klux Klan, the white people just like black people in the South. It wasn't anything, they couldn't pinpoint it, they just didn't like him. I just know I don't like him. And that's the same mentality that you see in this Trump derangement syndrome. And
There-
that's why they get so upset when you challenge them, because they have no valid answer.
Well, it's always, we didn't even really talk about it. Thank you, Mike. Good call. We didn't even really talk about the No Kings nonsense yesterday because I didn't want to sour the day on an uplifting opening day out at the K. I just, I could have played clips all day of losers all over Kansas City not knowing, to Mike's point, what they're even protesting. And I do think there's an element of what Mike said that is absolutely true. People have been conditioned. They're just following the herd, and they don't really know why. They don't. But it's communal for them. In a world where people are more isolated than ever before, families are smaller, people aren't getting married, we're human beings. We're naturally looking for community. And if you're not getting it from family, if you're not getting it from church, if you're not getting it from other sources, you're going to get it from politics. And, that's okay to an extent. But if it goes too far, it's not okay. If it allows you to impact what you think of your local Major League Baseball team, then that can absolutely be problematic as well. It's the reality of the situation. And that's not a good thing for anybody involved when you're going down that road. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO. Let's hit up Derek. He's in Oak Grove. What's up, Derek?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
I wanted to articulate some reasons why I think Trump's a bad president. So, number one, he pardoned many people convicted of fraud. He just pardoned Joseph Schwartz. You could look that one up. Another one I don't like, he allows the Adelsons to give him hundreds of millions of dollars to support illegal settlements in the West Bank. Do you know who Ben Gvir is or Benzalo Smotrich is? Have you heard of them?
I don't know those names.
Okay, well, they're very high up in the Israeli parliament. I think it's like the minister of defense and the minister of cybersecurity, maybe. Either way, they were just popping champagne bottles because they got this law passed where they can execute Palestinian detainees. And they actually grew up doing illegal settlements in the West Bank. And that's what Trump supports because he takes money from the Adelsons. That's what I don't like about him. And like I said, I don't like that he pardons fraudsters. What do you have to say about any of that, Pete? I'm really interested to hear your thoughts.
Well, what I have to say about that, Derek, is that you should be the guy that gets interviewed at the No Kings rallies instead of some of the nonsensical, totally clueless people that get on TV. You've got to get yourself to the front of the TV line. That's what needs to happen.
That's why I call into your show, man.
I know, and I greatly appreciate that. I really do.
Okay, so what do you think about what I said, though? Can you actually comment on those things?
Yeah, I just think that.
Do you like it?
Do I like what?
The things I said. Do you like that he takes money to support illegal settlements in the West Bank, or taking land from Syria to go on highs? Or do you like that he pardons people convicted of fraud like Joseph Schwartz? Do you like that?
Well, no, I don't like that in theory, but like I said, I don't know.
He did it. He did that stuff. Why are you dancing around it?
I don't know the two guys that you mentioned, Derek. I don't know the two guys that you talked about. So I will do.
Those things aren't relevant to what I'm saying. Stop. Those things aren't relevant to what I'm saying. Are you listening? Oh, now you're interrupting me.
It's actually silent. I was not interrupting you at all. It was silent. Listen, that's great. You have your reasons for not liking Trump. That's fine. That wasn't really the point of the conversation. I mean, it really wasn't. But Derek had his a cup of coffee this morning, or a handful of cups of coffee. He's fired up at 6:18. And that's good with me, man. That's good with me. Let's kick it off strong here on a Tuesday. All right? I love it. I'm all in. 913-408-7957. Once again, you took it in a different direction, but that's your prerogative. I don't know where it's going this morning. Boy, Tirade Tuesday's 2 hours away. And if this is any sign of what's to come, we're going to be just off to the races on KCMO. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio. 95.7 FM. We're streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. I do have to get to this here this hour, and that is what's going on here in Kansas City. There was a big protest that happened yesterday fighting back against the city council. We'll get into that after your calls coming up.
Vince Colonnese here. Join me for your lunch hour from 11 to 2 on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
624, good morning. It is great to have you here to start the morning here on KCMO 95.7 FM. We just started off the show. Little baseball talk. Royals get a win yesterday on opening day, and I weaved it into the story that was featured in the New York Times, headlined, "Help, My Favorite Athlete is an Idiot." And it's written by a guy named Devin Gordon, who goes on the right that he's very upset. He's found out that many pro athletes on his favorite teams happen to like Donald Trump. And this is not something that he has a lot of empathy for. He's not happy about this. And then we got it rolling with you at 913-408-7957. Jake is on KCMO in Odessa. What's up, Jake?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. That last caller, I don't know. It just something about it seems like his whole problem with Trump is just that he supports Israel, and apparently that's a problem now with some people. But I mean, my 2 cents is that ever since I've been old enough to vote, I voted Republican, and it seems like every time I voted Republican, particularly in the presidential elections, it's always just if I got to hold my nose to vote for this career.
Jake, you might be hitting a dead spot there in Odessa.
Oh,
You there?
Okay.
You there, Jake?
Yep.
All
Yep,
right.
you got me?
We got you loud and clear now, brother.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So no, I was just saying, ever since I've been old enough to vote, I voted GOP.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like every time I've had to vote GOP, I just have to kind of hold my nose because it's always some career politician. And it's like, well, they're going to do a lot of stuff I don't like, but I might get some things I do like, and they're not as bad as the Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly voting for John McCain, voting for Mitt Romney. And the thing is, it seems like a lot of GOP politicians never push back. They never fight back. Trump does fight back, which is why he gets such a visceral reaction from the liberals. And I mean, yes, I don't like that he's pardoned certain people. I don't like a lot of his personal shortcomings, but I do like that we have negative net migration for the first time in decades in this country. I like that he's finally doing something about Iran, even though, I hope it doesn't involve boots on the ground. But he's been by far the most consequential president in my lifetime, and I'm more than willing to take the bad with the good when it comes to Trump.
Yeah, there's no perfect politician, to your point there, Jake. Great call. Thanks for making it. I completely agree with you on that. Mark in Independence. What's up, Mark?
Hey, real quick to that young man, I wish I had more time, but if he's spouting off stuff he doesn't like about Trump, well, I guarantee you I can spout off a list twice as long why I don't like Obama, Clinton, you name it, the Bidens. You want to talk about corruption, they're far more corrupt. And as far as Israel goes, you don't see Israel having in their UN charter kill all the Muslims like Iran and several Mideastern companies have in their charter to the UN, and the UN doesn't make them take it out. And Hamas and Hezbollah in their covenant to establish their organization, the Houthis, they all have in there kill the Jews. So I don't know what I'm sure the young man doesn't know about that.
Well,
so
listen.
I love Trump, and by the way, I got the biggest return I ever got. The IRS reported yesterday returns thus far this year are twice as much as they were last year, and I love Trump. Thank you.
Yep. Those returns are looking good. Libby and Waldo, 30 seconds are yours, Libby.
Oh, you know what? It's actually your refund. It's not your return. We got your return. Okay. Pete, I want to address something really quick, like about the herd mentality that you referenced. I think people are doing what they're doing, the haters, because I think they're afraid. I think they're doing it out of fear. They want to belong to something, like you mentioned, but they're doing it out of fear. And all we have to do to remember all that stuff is remember what happened in 2020 and how fast people gave in to fear.
Yep. You're absolutely right about that, Libby. Well said.
Okay.
Nice job.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day. I appreciate the call. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here. We're only at 6:28 this morning. How about that? Coming up, what's going on in Kansas City when it comes to one group pushing back? We'll tell you who, the details of it, and more coming up next. In the meantime, talk about how busy things are for you right now. I know we got Easter coming up this weekend. It's springtime. Kids' activities are picking back up. Well, the good news is at Hy-Vee, They will help you with the convenience of ordering your groceries for pickup or delivery. It's so easy. Download the app or go to Hy-Vee.com, choose your store, select your items, and Hy-Vee will do the shopping for you. All you have to do is pick up the order or have it delivered right to your home if you have Perks Plus. Save time, save money. What could be better? Only at Hy-Vee.
The Guy Benson Show, 2 to 5 on KCMO. The Mark Levin Show, 5 to 8 p.m. on KCMO. from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
So there was a big rally yesterday in Kansas City, 6:34 on a Tuesday. Thanks for joining us on KCMO. Business owners who are fighting back against a proposed ordinance that would ban single-serve alcohol sales in high-crime neighborhoods. Now, I admit, I have been split on this. Now, the reason I've been split on this is because I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, we don't need to be selling little bottles of liquor on every street corner. In my neighborhood, we got like a third liquor store in a 2-block radius. And I remember saying to Kate, why do we need this? There are 2 other guys right there. Like, this is not a good sign when you've got all these liquor stores popping up all around your neighborhood. And they're nice liquor stores. One's been there forever. It was part of a gas station. The other one was the new fancy liquor store. Now the other one's the new fancy liquor store. It's like people aren't drinking that much these days. I don't get it. So I don't need more liquor stores. I don't think that that's something we should be advocating for. However, I also sit here and I say to myself, from a Kansas City perspective, you know what? If this is something that can crack down on some of the petty crime happening outside of these gas stations where people are buying these little nips and then before you know it, gunfire's erupting, in part because maybe they don't have the security that they should have on their property, then you know what? You got a problem on your hands and someone's got to do something about it. And that's where I've been on this thing, John.
Well, if you got a building, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Sleep there at 2 a.m?
Oh, that's
true. If you're
true.
not open, right? So how much security can you provide? And my point was going to be that if we had the local jail where the guy goes in and does 24 hours and you let him go,
yeah,
that might help the cycle.
Yes, I agree. That's certainly something that Kansas City has dropped the ball on. And I don't like the fact that they have just basically made up this line of where theoretically you could not sell certain kinds of alcohol at certain times of day. I think that's inherently unfair where basically they picked, let's be honest, higher crime, oftentimes majority neighborhoods. I want to make sure I phrase that right. When they put these places and they put these restrictions in place, and it's like, well, it's clearly geared towards a certain part of Kansas City. And yeah, crime is a problem in these parts of town. There's no doubt about it. But to John's point, what do you do at 2 a.m., right? What are you supposed to do? Have 24-hour security because the cops don't drive by?
Yeah, well, there you go. That's just what I was going to say because, when I was a kid, you would see a cop circle every once in a while. You were on guard, if you will. So to the point, these would just be areas then where apparently you need more patrol.
Yes, and then that would be something that if you had a fully staffed police department would not be a problem.
So the chicken and the egg.
Yes, that's exactly what we've got, a chicken or the egg conversation. Here's part of KCTV5's reporting yesterday as you had local business owners fighting back against the ordinance in Kansas City that would ban single-serve alcohol sales in high-crime neighborhoods.
How do you pick a line where you can sell single shots?
Dozens of business owners rallied Monday against the proposed ordinance, arguing it would strip $130 million from the local economy and eliminate thousands of jobs.
It would reduce my sales about 30%. Also, the hiring of employees.
That concern isn't just coming from gas stations and liquor stores. Distributors are raising it too.
All we're asking for is a fair and impartial process that allows all of us to have a stake in what the city is attempting to do.
And that was Duran Cherry, if you recognize that voice. And I was watching the clip and I'm like, Duran Cherry? But yeah, Duran Cherry was in that. He works on behalf of United Beverage, so he was out protesting that as well. I'll reach out and see if we can get him on the show. Wes Rogers, Kansas City councilman in the Northland, 2nd District, said in a statement, this is an incredibly well-intended ordinance. The intent is to address important public health and public safety issues facing our city. As the ordinance is currently written, I do have some concerns that the damage it would cause to small business outweighs the concerns it would attempt to address. And that's where I'm falling on this thing. where Wes Rogers is. I actually think that the people who are trying to push this are doing it for the right reasons, even though it might be unpopular. Mayor Lucas, I believe Melissa Robinson on the city council, also proponents of this ordinance. They're trying to figure out every way possible to reduce crime in high crime areas of Kansas City. That's admirable. But in many ways, it's kind of like the gun conversation. Is it the inanimate object that is really causing problems here? Or is it the person using it? Is it the bottle, the little nip of vodka that's really causing issues here? Or is it the person consuming it, where they're consuming it, and why they're consuming it? That's the problem here. And if you are able to have more proactive policing, which Kansas City has lost in part because of numbers, but also in part because people are like looking around and saying, okay, do I want to be the next Eric DeValcanair? That conversation's being had around Kansas City with law enforcement. With the lay of the land in this town, those are the conversations that cops are having every single day. So with that environment in Kansas City, you've got a lot of things against you. And if there's a magical ordinance that's going to make it so certain liquor stores can't sell little bottles of alcohol, well, yeah, there's definitely an economic impact to it. Is it thousands of jobs and $130 million? That seems like a stretch to me. I'd like to see how they cook up those numbers, to be honest. I mean, that's a lot of booze in the hood at $130 million of nips and thousands of jobs. I mean, it's clerk jobs. I don't think it's thousands of jobs. I don't know how you get to that number, but that's not really the point. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. 913-408-7957. So if you're a Kansas City resident, you can call up your council person because this ordinance is moving forward. And even if it's not your part of Kansas City, it shouldn't really matter. Like if you're in the Northland, it's not going to impact you. But there are parts of Westport that are going to be impacted by all this as well. Jim, you're on KCMO. What's going on?
Hey, Pete, why don't we tax it like they do cigarettes?
Well, I'm not sure that would really impact anything. It's not a bad idea. I don't know.
Exactly. That's the same thing. That's their same argument about cigarettes. Tax them to where they don't want to use it anymore. That's the same thing they said about cigarettes.
Yeah, but you would agree with me that cigarettes are not popular anymore, not really because of the tax, but more so because people have realized the health issues with cigarettes, right?
Okay, if they did the same campaign with the liquors they did cigarettes, they would be in the same situation, would they not?
Maybe. I mean, listen, I think already there's a lot of data out there right now that shows people are drinking less than ever before, especially younger people.
Well, I get that, but I'm just trying to make the point that they always want to use taxation as a means to drive something down or out of the consumer's hands.
Yeah.
Why don't they do that rather than just banning it?
Mm-hmm.
It would generate more money.
I see. Yeah. I don't know if Kansas City can just on its own decide to increase the sales tax on alcohol. I don't know how that would work, but then if you increase the sales tax on alcohol on the east side but not on Ward Parkway, how does that look, right?
Right, but see, if you do it all across the board, then everybody gets it.
Yeah, that's true, but then they'll have wine moms complaining about it, so you can't have it both ways. But I see your point there. I do there, Jim. Thanks so much. I mean, trust me, man, there's a lot of people who need a stiff drink at the end of the day working in this town. George, you're on KCMO. What's up?
Hey, so my viewpoint on this, like the single serve banning them, if they're going to ban the single serve, if they really want to drink that bad, they're just going to buy the bigger bottle, wouldn't you think?
I would think so, too.
Yeah. Again, with what the last guy said about the cigarettes, if they were to put more restrictions on cigarettes, if, like, let's say they took away single-serve cigarettes, the people that smoke cigarettes can buy them by the carton anyways.
Yes. The one thing that they would probably say to that is that if these are individuals who do not have a lot of money, maybe, living on the streets, they may not be able to afford the bottle versus buying the nip to get them through the day.
Well, so coming off of that, I could see them potentially trying to rob the place for the alcohol if they want it that bad. If these are the individuals they're targeting that are already causing crimes,
Yep. That's absolutely possible there, George. You're right about that. I appreciate the call. That's definitely a possibility, which is, once again, what is the government's role in all of this as they consider banning single-serve liquor sales at gas stations, but only in high-crime parts of Kansas City. Amy is in Kansas City. Good morning, Amy.
Hey, I was just curious if this is about certain things like that, but in just a month or two when FIFA comes in, they're going to roll out almost 23-hour drinking.
At
so
bars.
What's that about?
Yes. Well, it probably gets back to what Jim was talking about out east, which is all about the money. Show me the money. You know how it is. Show me the money, Amy. Let's go.
Have a great day.
Listen, the hypocrisy, obviously, from politicians is always on full display. They want to get theirs, but then they also want to look like they're doing something about crime.
Yeah, this all sounds like there's going to be a meeting at the lake house on Ozark with Marty Bird and everybody.
Oh, man. I haven't thought about that show in a while. I'm looking for a show. I may have to rewatch it. That was a great show. But you're right. It does have that kind of weird feeling to it all. And now you've got people that own some of these convenience stores in some of these parts of Kansas City who are fighting back against it. Do they have the juice? We'll find out. We'll talk to the mayor about it coming up when he joins the show Thursday at 7:30 on KCMO. Harris Faulkner is going to be here at 7:30 from Fox News. She is 45 minutes away, and it's always a Tirade Tuesday at 8:30 this morning on KCMO. Our 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour is coming up next.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson show, we asked where the hell is Congress with this DHS shutdown? A few members joining us to tackle that question coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
6:51 on a Tuesday morning. Great to have you here on KCMO.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Top of the list, a lot of movements with the war against Iran. Here's some of the breaking news this morning. First off, there's a press conference scheduled for next hour with the Pentagon. So as soon as that gets on the air, we'll bring it to you here on KCMO Talk Radio. But overnight, two reports that stood out to me over the last few hours. Wall Street Journal saying that the president is willing to end the Iran war even if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Trump and his aides assessed that a mission to reopen Hormuz would push the conflict beyond his timeline of 4 to 6 weeks. The president believes the U.S. should achieve its main goals of destroying Iran's navy and missile stockpiles. Trump thinks he can wind down current hostilities while pressuring Iran diplomatically to resume the free flow of trade. If that fails, Washington would press allies in Europe and the Gulf to take the lead on reopening the strait. Now, the Washington Post had another story during the overnight reporting that Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain are privately urging President Trump to continue the war against Iran. Details include Gulf countries arguing Iran has not been weakened enough. Gulf countries were initially upset that they were not given adequate advance notice ahead of the war. They also reportedly do not want the war to end until there are significant changes in the Iranian leadership or a dramatic shift in Iranian behavior. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are leading the calls for increasing military pressure on Iran. So the Pentagon is going to hold a press conference here, top of the hour. We'll bring you Pete Hegseth momentarily on KCMO Talk Radio. Next up,
number 2.
Well, gas prices have now topped $4 a gallon nationwide on average, the highest since 2022. So that's obviously not a good sign. Average prices at the pump are now higher than at any point during President Trump's 2 terms in office. Brent crude rose nearly 2% to nearly $115 a barrel after inching down a day prior. So that is obviously something that the president is going to have to factor in to his decision making here.
Number 3.
Rolling through our 6 at 6. This news came down yesterday. The Kansas City Symphony plans to break ground on a new Plaza area concert venue in 2026. The music hall, located on the vacant land to the south of the Kansas City Public Library's Plaza branch, will seat 4,600 for touring concerts and film with live orchestra performances, according to a Symphony press release. The venue will be at 4901 Main Street and will be designed for contemporary touring artists who use microphones, unlike the acoustically focused Hellsberg Hall at the Kauffman Center, which seats 1,600. So the Plaza needed some good news, and they got some yesterday.
Number 4.
Let's go to some not so good news. This fire up in Smithville yesterday that started at a Chinese restaurant in a strip mall took out all the businesses. Several businesses located on the strip mall will remain closed until further notice following a fire yesterday afternoon that drew firefighters from all across the area. And the fire was fully involved and constituted a defensive operation, according to the Smithville Fire Department. Smithville Police Department closed US 169 in both directions at West Main Street yesterday afternoon when this fire broke out. The strip mall is home to La Fuente Mexican Restaurant, Westlake Chinese Restaurant, H&R Block, Lakeside Smoke, and Pizza Shop. And many of the businesses have been posting on social media saying that they lost everything and will be closed until further notice.
Number 5.
And in our 6 at 6, let's go to Roland Park, where a new report from Channel 9 reports ICE activity in Roland Park yesterday morning. Roland Park police say they were called Monday morning to a report of ICE in a residential area. According to a statement from Roland Park Police, officers were dispatched at about 8 a.m. to the 4700 block of Reinhardt Drive Police said they made contact with a representative from ICE who told them the incident began in another jurisdiction and concluded within Roland Park city limits. Police said they had no prior knowledge of the activity and were not asked to assist.
Number 6.
And last up in hour 6 at 6, the Royals get a win on opening day at home yesterday, 3-1 over the Twins. A nice victory. Kyle Isabel and Isaac Collins both going yard yesterday to beat the Twins. It was 85 degrees, sellout crowd, 39,000 plus out at the K yesterday. And Chris Bubich picked up the win, gave up 1 run on 2 hits in 6 innings of work. So congratulations to the Royals. They're now 2-2.
Like the drone cam.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
That was pretty cool, John. John was all decked out when I got back to the station yesterday in his Royals blue. So great day for Kansas City. They're off today, back at it tomorrow at home against the Twins. Pete Hegseth in the press conference coming up next here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We'll see what the Pentagon has in store after the top of the hour news. We are moments away from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth providing an update on these strikes against Iran. As soon as that comes on the air, we'll bring it to you live here on KCMO Talk Radio. 7:04 on a Tuesday morning. Thanks for joining us. Two big reports during the overnight hours that I assume will be addressed by Pete Hegseth here in just a couple of minutes. One comes from the Wall Street Journal that says the president is willing to end the Iran war even if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Trump and his aides have basically said, hey, we said this was going to be a 4 to 6 week deal. We're kind of approaching that timeline. We're not sure we want to go any further with any of this. Trump also believes the U.S. should achieve its main goal of destroying Iran's Navy and missile stockpile. However, the Washington Post reported late last night that Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain are privately urging President Trump to continue the war against Iran. So that's what's happening right now. The president has posted on social media here twice in the last hour. President Trump writing 54 minutes ago, we'll save it. Pete Hegseth's taking the podium right now. We have Harris Faulkner from Fox News coming up at the bottom of the hour at 7:30. Let's get to the Secretary of War.
Today. For reasons of operational security, so those troops are not targeted, the places and bases will not be named. Suffice it to say, the trip was an honor. I had a chance to bear witness, and I witnessed the best of America. I witnessed warriors, a brotherhood of men and women, warriors all. Active duty, guard, and reserve, united in their love for each other, their shared purpose, and their commitment to the mission. I witnessed sheer competency. I watched a private first class confidently calling out an enemy missile trajectory to a room full of officers. Everyone focused. The room was locked in. 2 enemy missiles successfully shot down. I spoke to Air Force and Navy pilots on the flight line, who every day both deliver bombs deep into Iran, but also shoot down drones defending their base. Many had just returned from the skies of Iran and Tehran. I put on a headset and spoke to one crew in the cockpit, locked and loaded, each and every day. I witnessed ingenuity, American ingenuity. I met the young Army officer who figured out how to neutralize maneuvering enemy missiles, saving countless lives. His commander confirmed that the whoops and cheers erupted in the Tactical Operations Center when his new approach was first successful. I met the Air Force intel analyst who refines target packages faster than the enemy can adapt. I actually gave him my card and told him to keep me posted on the ground truth. I did the same with his boss, a colonel with a heart the size of Texas and a beautiful deployment mustache to match. I witnessed lethality. I met a junior airman as the sun was going down and a chill was setting on the tarmac, who, when asked what they needed, she simply looked up at me with a sly smile on her face and said, "More bombs, sir, and bigger bombs. We will happily oblige her." I met the Army targeting team who found and sunk the pride and joy of the Iranian Navy, their fighting position plastered with images of sunken enemy ships. And I witnessed urgency. Right when we landed, another C-17 landed just minutes after us. And within 30 seconds of the aircraft coming to a full stop, a team on the ground pulled up and the cargo was being uploaded. Wartime speed. To a man and to a woman on the ground, in the air, on the flight line, and in the TOC, I heard, "We want everything faster, higher op tempo, wartime speed." The feeling was the exact opposite of the rotational units year after year in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that we're so familiar with. In those wars, it was always about the next rotation, never knowing when the mission would end or exactly what the mission was, year after year. Not with epic fury. I witnessed urgency to finish the job, urgency to achieve mission success, not looking at the next rotation only moving as fast as possible to win. I got a chance to troop the line, to witness firsthand what we already know is true. I spoke to all ranks and all services, none of whom knew we were coming. It was not rehearsed or scripted. Sometimes we just wandered. What I witnessed was motivation. It was sheer mission focus. It was the American warrior unleashed. It was the kind of warfighting American spirit that comes with a clear mission against a determined enemy. A crew chief we flew with summed it up nicely. He said, "It's been a busy few weeks, sir. Tough stuff. But I'm so honored to be called up. This fight is long overdue. We need to address it for our kids. We cannot pass the buck. Please thank the president from us." I heard that time and time again. I asked each young American, "What do you need?" And nobody said better equipment. Nobody said more comfortable living conditions. Nobody said send me home. Well, of course, eventually we want all those things. They do too. But what those Americans said to me, young and old, officer and NCO, male and female, black and white, was, "Let's finish the mission. Get us even more bombs, bigger bombs, more targets. Let us finish this." In fact, Admiral Cooper noted this morning that the 3 Air Force captains shot down by Kuwaiti-friendly fire early in the fight, weeks ago. They never left the theater. All dropped bombs over Tehran last night. These men and women live the Iranian threat every day, incoming missiles and drones, and know what a world looks like, what the world would look like if Iran had the most dangerous weapons in the world, a nuclear weapon. As President Trump has said time and time again for years, and in this administration, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb, and they won't. These troops, they want to finish this fight for their kids and their grandkids. This is about history. This is about legacy. Success matters. And because of this president and these Americans, we're closer than ever before to winning. President Trump is doing what no other president had the guts to do. Previous presidents were all talk. He's all action. On the battlefield, because of the latitude the president has given us, American firepower is only increasing. Iran's decreasing. We have more and more options, and they have less. Just 1 month in, only 1 month, we set the terms. The upcoming days will be decisive. Iran knows that, and there's almost nothing they can militarily do about it. Yes, they will still shoot some missiles, but we will shoot them down. Of note, the last 24 hours saw the lowest number of enemy missiles and drones fired by Iran. They will go underground, but we will find them. We recently destroyed another one of their command bunkers. Leaders forced to flee. No water, no power, no oxygen, no command and control. Their faith in their caves diminishing. The latest intel is clear out of CENTCOM. Our strikes are damaging the morale of the Iranian military, leading to widespread desertions, key personnel shortages, and causing frustrations amongst senior leaders. Just last night, we had 200 dynamic strikes alone. Dynamic strike is a strike where a pilot leaves, and during their flight, they get a new target set based on real-time intel given to them. A new launcher, a new location, a new troop formation. A dynamic target is one that changes while you're in the air because of improved intelligence. 200 dynamic strikes alone, in addition to the pre-planned targets. The video the president posted last night of Esfahan, an ammo depot struck by U.S. bombers. You see, you don't get to see many of those videos because, as a reminder, Iran has still shut off the internet to 99.9% of its population. But if Iran is wise, they will cut a deal. President Trump doesn't bluff, and he does not back down. You can ask Khomeini about that. The new Iranian regime should know that by now. This new regime, because regime change has occurred, should be wiser than the last. President Trump will make a deal he is willing, and the terms of the deal are known to them. If Iran is not willing, then the United States War Department will continue with even more intensity. Standing here this morning in this briefing room, in my mind's eye, I'm actually looking out at the groups I met this weekend. The pilots, the logisticians, the intel analysts, the targeters, the sustainers, the flight crews, the air defenders, the base security, those maintainers who we walked up at sunset with the chill in the air on the flight line. May God watch over all of them, each day and each night. May his almighty and eternal arms of providence stretch over them and protect them and bring them peace. In the name of Jesus Christ, and amen. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
All right. That was Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, live from the Pentagon. As you heard him say there at the very end, I thought that was the most important point. He says the president does not bluff. He says regime change has occurred, and he believes they are wiser than the last regime. I'm not convinced that's the case. What evidence is there to suggest that the people in charge right now in Iran are any smarter or any less radical or any more willing to negotiate with the United States than the last? I think that's what they're hoping for. But there's been no obvious public evidence that that's actually the case. So it felt to me like kind of a global threat from the United States saying, hey, we want to end this thing. We want to bring the war to an end. But obviously, it's going to take two to tango. And their hope is that Iran is so damaged that they will want to negotiate. It's not obvious to me that's going to happen here. Harris Faulkner will join us at 7:35 on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, of course, from the Faulkner Focus and Outnumbered on Fox News. 913-408-7957. If there's something that you just heard from Pete Hegseth as we hit day 32 of the war against Iran, that's what we're here for on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. Hey, you know what's coming this week? A lot of rain. And you know what that can mean? Bad news for your foundation. Homeowners in Kansas City, well, guess what? It can be a surprise. It always is when you're owning that house, especially when it comes to that foundation. And I'm thrilled to be working with KC Pier, Kansas City's foundation repair experts. And what I love about these guys is that when you call KC Pier, a real person here in Kansas City picks up the phone. Not a call center, not a robot, not hit 7 different numbers. A human in Kansas City who knows the city, the soil, and the concerns of you, the Kansas City homeowner. KC Pier is locally owned, and every job is done by their own trained employees, not subcontractors. And they don't just fix your problem and disappear. Eric and his team at KC Pier give you a lifetime transferable warranty, plus 1 and 2 year monitoring visits to make sure your foundation is performing the way it should. And they take an educational approach. They walk you through their simple ABC solution options so you understand what your home needs, why it needs it, and what makes the most sense for you. So if you're seeing cracks in the walls, if you have some water in the basement with all the rain coming this week, or anything feels off, reach out to KC Pier. Kansas City owned and home of the lifetime warranty. Go to kcpier.com.
From Overland Park to Parkville, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Fox News' Harris Faulkner will be here in 10 minutes on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I want to clear the air on something that I've been asked about because of an article that was written in the Kansas City Star yesterday that mentioned something I have planned for this evening. So Kansas City Star was writing about Nathan Willett, Kansas City councilman who is filing and did file yesterday to run for Congress to replace Sam Graves. We now know that Nathan Willett is going to be in this Republican primary to replace Sam Graves along with Chris DeGaulle. So they wrote here in the Kansas City Star that Willett is scheduled to host a special announcement, likely a formal campaign launch alongside radio show host Pete Mundo on Tuesday night. Now, that is true. I will be a part of this special announcement for Nathan Willett tonight in the Northland, and he promoted that and talked about it yesterday here on the show, and it's all up on his social media. Now, of course, they can't say KCMO Talk Radio in the Kansas City Star because they'll melt down. I think it's against their guidelines to write about this radio station in the Star, but whatever. I am doing it tonight. I was asked by Nathan weeks ago to MC an event for him in the Northland. And at the time, he was a state Senate candidate, and then things change. And then Chris DeGaulle gets into this race as well, which I had no idea was going to happen. No one tipped me off on that. I'm not saying anybody has to, but no one did. And then Nathan gets in, and he says, will you still do the MCing for me? And I said yes, because I'm a man of my word, and I said I was going to do it for him several weeks ago, and why would I not do it? It's not an endorsement. I told him that when he booked me to MC the event. I said, you can promote that I'll be there. You can do whatever you want with me as the MC. But, you know, just to be clear, any MC event I've ever done is not some endorsement for a candidate. It's just, hey, if it works schedule-wise and we come to a mutual agreement on what it's going to take to get me there, then you know what? That's great. I'm happy to be there for you and be a face for you and maybe bring a couple of laughs along the way, and that's kind of what I do. But it doesn't mean it's some kind of endorsement. I'm not getting involved in it. I never have gotten involved in a primary, going back almost 10 years now. We'll talk to most of the people involved. We'll have them on the show. We'll talk about when they have good days and bad days and good moments and bad moments. And that's the arena that Chris is now in and that Nathan is now in. If there's a debate to be had, we'll try to be a part of that as well. But that's what I'm doing. But that's how it all came to be. This notion that, like, I'm picking a horse in the race between Nathan and Chris, no. I think they're both really good guys who would do a really solid job in Congress. And I think they each have their pros and their cons. I mean, I think that's because we all do. So they're not any different. But it's now something that for a Missouri side of the state line that did not have a lot of juice to it going into this year, that has brought a lot of juice to what's going to be a very fascinating race in Missouri's 6th congressional district now up in the Northland between Chris DeGaulle and Nathan Willett. And we'll see who else may jump in. Harris Faulkner is going to jump on this show. We'll react to the Pentagon briefing and more with Harris Faulkner next.
from Smithville to Shawnee Mission. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Busy morning as always, and no one better to join the show than our good friend, Harris Faulkner. Faulkner Focus on Fox News, outnumbered, joining us on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Harris, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Pete. So good to talk with you this morning. It is a fabulous day of spring in New York City. We don't get a lot this early in the year, but we're going to take it.
Well, we had 87 degrees for the Royals home opener yesterday. It felt like July 4th out here. So I'm glad you're getting some better weather, too. It's just, if I'm going to complain, it's a little too warm right now in Kansas City, but we're going to cool off.
Well, you know what? I just got back from showing my daughter a couple of SEC and ACC campuses. And when we planned this trip, of course, Mom didn't remember it was in the middle of March Madness. So I was extra happy. And it was 90 when we got to Raleigh-Durham last week. And I was like, okay, because it was 28 here. So
I saw you rocking some Auburn gear the other day on social media. I didn't know if you were tipping your hand there on where your daughter may end up going to school. Is she going to be a Tiger?
You know what? Your children are young. The greatest thing that we can do for our kids is to let them make decisions and to drop little, hints here and there. That was a hint shirt, dude. That's all I do. I just drop a hint, and I want her to see other places as well. But we hit the two coasts because those were the flights that were most likely going to fly because they were the most crowded in the middle of this crazy shutdown situation. And I'm so glad that TSA is getting paid now because that was just, now we got to get 500 plus people back. And I don't blame them for leaving. Look, I get it. But yeah, so that's why. So now we're going to hit the middle. We'll do a little UT Austin. We'll do some Jayhawk country because my heart is there. So I just sprinkle it on. I don't come heavy with it. But yeah, so you saw my hint.
There you go. I love that. All right. Well, you're going to be checking out Jayhawk country. That's fantastic.
Of course. Well, she's been there.
Okay.
I mean, she knows.
She knows.
Yeah,
she knows.
It's different, though, when you're looking academically. But she knows. There's nothing like Allen Fieldhouse. I mean, come on. We'll be back next year. They needed to take a break. It's okay. They're coming back. I'm not even worried.
That's fantastic. Well, Harris, so you've been traveling, obviously. You talked about the DHS shutdown, the airport situation. You've obviously been all over this on your show. How do we get out of this never-ending cycle of politically motivated shutdowns that it seems like the Democratic Party is actually getting rewarded for, despite the fact that even both sides of the aisle are more or less now admitting they're the reason for it?
Yeah, look, I don't give anybody a pass on this. This is a Democrat-led shutdown. It is the second. And now, again, we have reached a point where we say these awful words, the longest in U.S. history. I mean, can you imagine within a 6-month period, the Democrats leading everybody to a cliff with nothing to show for their side? Absolutely nothing at this point. ICE and the Border Patrol were paid for in the big, beautiful bill now law. So that wasn't even a contention point. And it's a lie to their voters to say we're fighting to defund ICE. They're already funded. They're on the job. In fact, now they're doing a bigger part of the job at airports. I snapped a couple pictures and showed my personal experience on the air yesterday because people were coming up and thanking ICE. And I remember, we're old enough to remember 6 weeks ago when that didn't happen. But Democrats haven't gamed the long game out. They never do. So now ICE is rescuing you after you eviscerated them because they've always just been counting on one thing, doing their job. We're not going to gloss over mistakes that have been made. We're not even inside the bubble. I mean, I don't know what the legality of all of what happened in Minneapolis will shake out to be. I'm not involved in those cases. But what I do know is that the president said softer touch. He cleaned up the mess that was there to begin with so many violent illegals who needed to be picked up and not let out into Minnesota communities. Tom Homan, he stepped up and did what he did for Obama, the deporter-in-chief. He went in there and he did the work and quietly left and moved on to the next. And the next now is a new Democrat-led crisis. First it was open borders. And now it's just no borders at all in our airports or any place guided by the DHS because we're at war. And our enemy would love to hit a crowded airport. Think about it. They hit Dubai, they hit Abu Dhabi's airports. They would love that. So they leave us bare again. They create a new crisis for no reason that they can control. ICE and Border Patrol already paid for, but then they stepped up, and I snapped pictures of the ICE agents, and people were smiling. And I saw, a couple of Democrat liberals online yesterday saying, oh, I just walked through this line, and ICE was processing security ID, so on and so forth, and it was super fast. Well, of course, they're doing their job yet again. So I'm really confounded, but I think all of them, both sides of the aisle, Pete, they have too much of our money. They really do. They act like they don't have any boundaries around the credit the debt that their credit thirst gets us into, and then just tax us more so we can pay for it all. I'm thinking of Washington State right now. Governor Ferguson, not on Capitol Hill, a Democrat who's about to do what Mom Donnie's going to do here in New York, so he thinks. 9.9% tax for $1 million and above. $1 million a big thing. Now you're punishing the American dream. And by the way, all these jokes and insults about plumbers are small to mid-sized businesses that hire a lot of people. I'm hoping they're making $1 million a year. I'm hoping the combined incomes of people in their houses can get to be that much so that they can continue to help sow the American dream for others who want to jump in with innovation. There's going to be a fight in Washington State politically over this because there's concern. What's going to happen to the, what I call the wealth migration? And it's real. Ask California. I mean, Gavin Newsom won't talk to you about it because he's too embarrassed about how broken his policies are. But the people will tell you that those dollars are flowing out of that state. And now Washington is doing it too. But we'll see what happens. Combined income, can you imagine? So two people earning well, two attorneys, two doctors in a household who wouldn't be at $1 million perhaps, but together they would be. I think of those people who take care of special needs that we have some of in my extended family. Those people who depend on those types of medical professionals. They aren't millionaires, but they might be when they live together and marry. So what do we want to destroy marriage now too for people who earn? I mean, it's the darndest thing. I don't know how they go into the midterms. I don't, and I hope Republicans are ready. They shouldn't have taken their paychecks. Republicans should have embarrassed Democrats and said, you know what? We're going to go without, and we dare you to go without. You know what Democrats are doing? Trying to cut in the front of the TSA lines until TMZ jumped in and said, oh, look at this video.
That is so good. Harris Faulkner. I just had to let you cook for the last couple of minutes. That was fantastic. My goodness. No, that was unbelievable. Harris Faulkner's here on KCMO. It's always great to have her on the show. So to your point, you mentioned how it's all about the midterms. Is it just strategically right now for one side of the aisle, everything that Trump does basically has to be bad, and they're hoping that pans out versus people kind of looking at them and saying, well, what exactly do you stand for? And frankly, can that be effective enough to get them the wins that they're looking for?
Well, first of all, your question is that all that it's about for Democrats? 100%. 100%. This is all about being anti-President Trump, which, by the way, lets you know how much cachet his name carries. They want it in all of their ads, too. Trump is all over the place in their ads. Watch as we see the new ones for this upcoming midterm election. We're in primary season right now, so some areas of the country are already seeing those ads. They're not even making it about their opponents within their own districts. It's all about Trump. It's Trump, Trump, Trump. So my question would be, what happens when he doesn't run in 2028?
Yeah. They're out of material. They're out of material.
They will have, and they will have taxed their tax bases so much that the innovation and the wealthiest creators of jobs will have fled to Florida and other states that are red states. And Florida's going to tip over. Everybody's going there, and Tennessee too. Because I think, didn't Howard Schultz, the co-founder of Starbucks, I think just moved to Tennessee? Yes. Now, he didn't take the corporation with him out of Washington State, but that's a big statement. He's out. So I had on the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, on set with me yesterday, and we were talking about this big tour that she's doing, all 50 states, she and her team. And she is quite the mission orienter. I mean, I have never seen anything like it. She can set a mission, orientate to it, and go get it. And so she's put kids in her sight. They're doing these big auditorium. It's like a game show, and it's grade school all the way through high school. And she'll ask civics questions. And if you think you have the answer, you hold up the American flag. And if it's a civics question about not just the country but your state, you think you have the answer, you hold up the card with your state on it. And these are big auditoriums, big just made placards that the kids do in the classrooms was the way she taught me what was going on. But she dropped a statistic, and I just can't believe this. So if you opt in right now to the school choice, right, and this is at a federal level, if you opt in, you get $1,700 in credit as a parent of that child. School choice, go do whatever you need, you get a credit, right? Mm-hmm. On top of whatever you would get in your state. They've got to offer it. It's an incentive. She said, by the time you hit third grade, you are, up until that point, learning to read. And when you get to third grade, if you haven't become a good reader, you have to depend on whatever you've learned, which probably won't be enough, because for the rest of your scholastic career, you are reading to learn, really for the rest of your life. You have to read to learn. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have that skill by third grade, how difficult is your life going to be? And she said, this is nonpartisan, this tour. She said, I want people to opt into this idea of school choice and get the credit for their own citizens. We showed a map of all the Democrat states, governors, school districts that don't want to opt in. But you tell me that's not about Trump. She said it is, and I believe her. Why wouldn't they do that for their citizens? Why don't they care about the future generations of these kids? Like, look, it may not sound like a ton of money to people, but it also attracts categories of help for those school districts, like special needs. You'll hear me lean on that a lot. I know people today maybe feel like we have a drug for everything. How about we don't drug our kids so much? How about we teach them?
That is fantastic, Harris. I totally agree with you on that. You're right. And as you noted, my kids are younger, watching them learn, watching my oldest start to figure out reading, which, by the way, is harder than it seems as adults. When you're watching a child do something, you realize you need great parental involvement. You need great teachers. You need a great work ethic. You need all of those things to come together. And too many of our school options right now are not doing that. They're just not all coming together. So, Harris, I've got a couple of minutes here. We're obviously in the middle of Holy Week. You are a proud military brat as well. We're monitoring the war overseas. Pete Hegseth gave another press conference this morning from the Pentagon. What are you thinking about this week, and what's on your heart and your mind?
Well, we just passed the day for Vietnam veterans. It's when we remember them specifically. That's always in, the end of March. And so I think of people like my father who love this country so much. They went very far away places in her name, and they were dedicated. And of course, he did it, as civil rights were still going on, the fight for civil rights, and then, the 60s, where we were going to see the fruit of America coming together. And that's what we were prayerful about. But then we were in Vietnam. And I, wasn't born for the time when he entered the military. But I do know that it didn't take perfection for my father to love this country. And because he said, I don't expect perfection, I expect production. We are the mightiest, we are the best. He said things will change, and then they will change, and then they will change. And as long as that change is progress, we'll remain the best. So what I think about right now are those people who, look, you don't have to agree with what we're doing in Iran. In fact, you should express it if you don't do it in a peaceful manner, because that's what our democracy is built on. We are a republic. Express yourself. We have a constitution. But what I am concerned about are those people who express hate in the name of all of it, who would cozy up with our enemies and root against our country, who would say, no, we want, a situation in the Middle East where we don't engage and we don't advocate my gosh, the Iranian American population in Los Angeles, haven't we seen how big it is as they celebrate? Because their families are now no longer under the thumb of the Ayatollah Khomeini. Now, we keep hearing, about the next wave of whoever the leadership is going to be. I mean, Operation Roaring Lion, which is Israel's, couplet with Operation Epic Fury, has taken out generations of people who call themselves leaders, both militarily and governmentally. So, some of these were very older people kind of in the back, and then kind of middle-aged and even younger trying to step up and fill those shoes so that they can keep what they had. But it's breaking apart now. And what I want to think about as we go into a point of resurrection is that we are willing to, as Americans, admit that the soul of this country needs a bit of redemption and resurrection, that it shouldn't just be about politics, but that we see the bigger picture, that the world's eyes are on us. We are still the beacon, that we resurrect that awareness of who we are, not pridefully, but boldly and with purpose. And with the idea that we can help others like no one else. We can be that shining light on a hill, and that we aspire to be that even when we don't agree. That's what's on my heart.
So well said. As always, Harris Faulkner, of course, Kansas City loves you. Faulkner Focus coming up 10 o'clock Central Time.
I love Kansas City. Come on.
Let's
yes.
go.
And I do wear that T-shirt often. I mean, I've got sleepwear. I've got everything. You talk about dropping a hint for my daughter. I do. Let's see what she does, Pete.
Well, I can't wait. You got to have a reveal on the Faulkner Focus like the high school athletes do when she announces her college decision.
That's
you can lay
hilarious.
put the hats out on there on the desk, and then she puts on the hat of her choice,
funny.
and boom, there you go. It'll be great. And then, of course,
you are very funny.
Well, Kansas City's going to be rooting for one of our area schools. You know that too.
Aw, I love that.
Hey.
Well, look, you and your little ones and your wife, God bless you all. Go Kansas City with everything you do. I root for you, all of you, not just the teams, but the whole metro.
We'll be watching at 10 o'clock Central Time, Harris. Thanks for everything, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
There you go. Harris Faulkner, Faulkner Focus, 10 o'clock Central Time on KCMO Talk Radio. Tirade Tuesday's coming up next hour. We got much more with you here on 95.7 FM.
Coming up at 10 o'clock, it's Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio, right after Pete Mundo and Mundo in the Morning.
Well, just real quick, some breaking news. Today's the last day to file to run for office in Missouri. So, like we learned yesterday, Quentin Lucas is not going to run for Congress. He knows he would have gotten just absolutely crushed by Mark Alford. We had Nathan Willett file to run against Chris DeGaulle in Missouri's 6th Congressional District. According to Scott Fawn of the Missouri Times, Kansas City Jackson County legislator Sean Smith is dropping out of the congressional race. That would be the 5th congressional district that Emmanuel Cleaver now holds. That is now being redrawn to be a more favorable map for Republicans. And he is expected to file for Senate District 8. That is to replace Mike Searpoy in Lee's Summit, which also includes the current Speaker of the House, John Patterson, who has a massive war chest. I don't really understand that one, to be honest, but that's what Scott Fawn of the Missouri Times is reporting here in the last few minutes. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So now in the 5th Congressional District to run against Emmanuel Cleaver, it's going to be Rick Bratton out of Cass County. Taylor Burks will be in that race. He ran for something a couple of years ago. I remember him running for one of the congressional races. So those are going to be the two big names now in the 5th Congressional District. So just something to keep an eye on the last day of filing in the state of Missouri. 913-408-7957. John Sherman made some news yesterday on this radio station, the owner of the Kansas City Royals. On opening day, we were out at the K. What was the fallout of those comments on this show? And what do they mean going forward? We'll share with you next. One of the great memes I saw over the weekend, we didn't spend a lot of time on it yesterday since we were out at the K for opening day, but it's, a bunch of geriatrics screaming, "No Kings, no Kings, no Kings," since we had another No Kings rally over the weekend. And one of the great memes I saw was me and the homies screaming at the blackjack table when I have a 13 versus a dealer 10. No Kings, no Kings. Oh, my gosh. It's just too good, man. It's just too good. The stuff writes itself. It's crazy. So we were out at the K yesterday, and John Sherman, the owner, was kind enough to join us, obviously, towards the end of the show at 9:30. If you missed that, it's up on the podcast. And we talked a lot about the stadium because we are sitting here on another opening day with no idea what exactly is next for the Kansas City Royals. So a couple of things stood out to me about the conversation yesterday, which happened at the end of the show. And our comments kind of sparked different conversations around Kansas City and different questions that John Sherman answered throughout the day from other media members about what's exactly next for this ballpark. So two things. First off, if you missed it, John Sherman did come out on the show yesterday and say that they're still looking at the Northland, and they still have been having some conversations with the state of Kansas. How close were you to that Overland Park move?
How close were we to it? You know, we looked really seriously on the other side of the state line, and we're still in some conversations on the Kansas side.
Oh, really? So there still have been conversations with folks in Kansas?
Yes.
Okay. And are there still conversations up north, or is it more just Kansas?
Yes, there are conversations up north.
Okay,
They've done a great job. I think, the Merrimans have done a great job with land assemblage up there. I would tell you that they've got a well-organized effort, and we're certainly talking to Kansas City, Missouri as well.
Now, from what I can gather in talking to sources, Kansas City, Missouri obviously is still the favorite here. But John Sherman is smart to obviously make it seem like the door is still open for other parts of Kansas City. Because until he gets ink on a deal and until he figures out how the financing is going to go without a vote of the people, and let's be honest, I think that's part of the conversation. I'll explain why here in a second. He can't rule anything out. In business, you'd be foolish to rule anything out. Why would you say, no, Kansas is done, Northland's not happening, don't worry about it, it's Kansas City, Missouri or bust? Why would you box yourself in like that if you're John Sherman? That's just bad business. You wouldn't do that. You got to keep your options open. So that's what he's doing, I think, in part. But then you had yesterday Clay County Commissioner Jathan Withington come out and say, hey, there have been no conversations up here in the Northland in quite some time. I have not heard about conversations potentially on the Kansas side of the state line in quite some time either, but I do think the door is still open. How open is the question? I don't think open very far, but once again, if Washington Square Park, this location near Crown Center and Union Station, doesn't work, then you've got to be able to look at other possibilities and say what else makes sense. Because the one thing that you have to give John Sherman a lot of credit for, whether you like how this process has gone with the stadium or not, is that he has never wavered in keeping this team here. He has never said, well, if I don't get what I want, I'm going to Nashville. I'm going to Salt Lake City. He's never done that. He's a Kansas City guy who wants to keep the team here. Have they dragged their feet on some things? Absolutely. Have they blown past their own timelines? Yes. To his credit, he's not doing the timeline thing anymore, and he shouldn't do the timeline thing anymore. But they've never wavered on their commitment to the Kansas City region. And there are a lot of owners who by now would have started to use the old, well, wink, wink, nod, nod. Austin, Texas looking pretty darn good this time of year. Not doing it. The other thing that Kansas City has going for it is that they've tried to figure out a way to do this without a vote, without any kind of sales tax vote in Jackson County and or Kansas City, Missouri. And I asked John Sherman if he thinks he needs a vote to get a deal done, which he would need up in the Northland in Clay County, where I think the Royals are scared to death of going on a ballot and dealing with a ballot initiative after what happened 2 years ago in Jackson County. And here's what he said.
Whatever you do next, do you anticipate some kind of vote, or do you think that there are ways to do it without a vote?
I think that's really not my decision. People are talking about different economic tools that are really traditional in big economic development projects like this. And, so I think, that's somebody else's decision whether or not a vote will be required.
Well, it's really not, though. I see what he's saying there. He's saying, it's going to be up to the municipality or the county to determine if they can do the financing without a vote based on whatever their laws are. However, where you decide you want to be, if it's determined by what's best for the team, may require a vote. Kansas doesn't. Chiefs love that. They'll go fleece the Kansas taxpayer for 30 years, and they don't care. And, they'll F all the way to the bank. They don't give a rip. We know that Clay County needs a vote. There has to be a sales tax component in Clay County to get the dollar figure to where the Royals believe it needs to be. Do they want to risk that after what happened 2 years ago in Jackson County? Kansas City, Missouri is trying to be creative, for lack of a better word, on how they can try to cobble together a state plan with likely maybe Port Kansas City to put a package together that's appealing with incentives for the Royals to move to, say, Washington Square Park. And, maybe 18th and Vine is still in the conversation. I heard some whispers about that the last 48 hours. I don't know how serious it is, but it may be a place that's getting a second look based on some people that I had heard from here as of late. So I still believe the head and shoulders favorite is that Crown Center spot. But there are a couple of hurdles. The financing, the ancillary revenue streams around the stadium, how do they tap into that? Because that was obviously the whole point of originally moving the ballpark as is. Oh, yeah, along with the concrete cancer. Yeah, about that. Concrete cancer. Can't forget that. Just got a bad batch of concrete, man. What are you going to do? Arrowhead's fine, but just drew the short straw in the concrete over there at the K. It happens. But that's really where this thing is at right now. And that's why I believe that John Sherman is just waiting to see what Kansas City, Missouri is able to bring to the table. And something that really is not getting a lot of attention in all this is that the FBI is sniffing around City Hall. I'm not saying that these two things necessarily work together, but you would be naive to not believe the FBI sniffing around City Hall, sniffing around a sitting council person who wants to be mayor, and her husband, Michael Shaw and Rayanna Park Shaw. He's the director of public works. She's a member of the city council. And who knows where that leads when it comes to Kansas City politics and what's going on downtown at City Hall. If you're looking to get a mega deal and get into bed with the city right now, with the FBI sniffing around, I'm not saying it's going to result in anything. I don't know that to be the case. But it's just got to be something that if you're the Royals and you're John Sherman, you'd be wise to keep an eye on. Because I know that the politics of all this, I believe, and John and I talked about this yesterday, have maybe caught some people off guard. And there was a moment of honesty yesterday when John Sherman said, hey, you know what? The problem with that vote 2 years ago is that we needed everybody to be on the same page. We needed everybody to be pushing full steam ahead, and we just didn't get it. It didn't happen 2 years ago. You had a tepid support from the mayor like 2 days prior. You didn't really have all the lawmakers on board either, and you needed that to get this thing across the finish line, and it didn't happen. And then you had Sly James out there doing his thing, and that really wasn't, I don't think, a good situation for anybody involved. Unfortunately, even though, personally, I don't have any issue with Sly, but I didn't think that the optics of that were great at the time 2 years ago. And then the thing went down in flames. So everybody needs to be going in the same direction. And that FBI investigation is at least something to just keep on your radar as it relates to the stadium process moving forward for the Kansas City Royals. Tirade Tuesday is 20 minutes away. Do not miss it right here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. It's 8:14 on a Tuesday morning. Next, before your tirades, there's something that came up yesterday that mixed the political world, with the culture, with faith, with sports. It all came together in an epic way yesterday. We'll tell you how and why next.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson Show, we asked, where the hell is Congress with this DHS shutdown? A few members joining us to tackle that question coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
Guy Benson fired up.
This is absolutely
wow.
lit. This is lit.
Guy Benson, 2 o'clock here on KCMO. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. So you had this story yesterday pop last night that really was this perfect storm of sports, politics, religion, faith, and in many ways, yes, the culture. So Jaden Ivey is a 24-year-old NBA player who was a member of the Chicago Bulls until they decided to cut him yesterday. Why? What happened? Well, Jaden Ivey went on his Instagram account and spoke out against the NBA's plans for Pride Night, and here's what he had to say.
The world can proclaim LGBTQ, right? They proclaim Pride Month and the NBA. They proclaim it. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month, to celebrate unrighteousness. They proclaim it.
So that's just 30 seconds of a near hour-long video that Jaden Ivey put on his Instagram page the other day that went viral. So the first thing that happened here is that the Chicago Bulls put out a statement yesterday at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon saying, quote, the Chicago Bulls announced today that the team has waived guard Jaden Ivey due to conduct detrimental to the team. So that comes down at about 5 o'clock yesterday. So you can do a lot of things in the NBA and get away with it and keep your job. But calling Pride Month unrighteous, and you know what? They will drop the hammer on you. It is a parody of a professional sports league, is what the NBA is. It's why it's dying on the vine. I mean, you've seen it now fall behind football, which it's been behind for a long time, and now I believe it's trailing Major League Baseball by a mile as well. I mean, Major League Baseball, we talked about it yesterday out at the K. Major League Baseball has now found itself back into the number 2 slot in American sports. It used to be number 3, I would say, and baseball was struggling up until a few years ago. They made some rules changes, and things got better for the sport. They've leaned into specific popular players. They've largely stayed out of the political arena. The NBA has done the opposite of that, and they've fallen by the wayside. So this guy gets the boot from the Chicago Bulls. Now, a couple of things. Do I agree with getting rid of this guy, Jaden Ivey, because of what he said? No, I don't. I don't believe that they should have fired this guy for comments that he made on his personal Instagram. Hey, if he took the microphone like during warm-ups or during introductions and started doing that to the crowd, okay, you got a problem on your hands here, all right? But a guy doing it on his personal Instagram account and holding views that are shared by, give or take 50% of America, especially given the NBA's track record, is not a good look for a sport that already is struggling with getting tens of millions of Americans to re-engage with their league right now.
I feel like this has to be more behind the scenes because he'd only played with the Bulls for like 5 games. I knew him as a Detroit Piston for the last few years.
Now, there is a little nuance to this, Mark. I agree with you here. Okay? This guy came to Chicago a few weeks ago, and he was hurt. He hasn't really been playing, and he's done after this season. His contract expires at the end of this year. So there really was not a lot that was lost here by the Chicago Bulls. It was an easy way for them to just get rid of the guy. If he was Steph Curry, if he was LeBron James, and he said these things, he would still have a job. Athlete privilege is real. There's no doubt about it. If you are excellent at your craft, you can get away with saying more things than if you're not. If you're a part-time role player who's always getting hurt, you're going to get the boot. And that's the point you're making there, Mark. There is a little nuance to this.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem for the NBA is that for people that already don't watch the sport because they think that the sport is too woke, they've given them another reason to be like, your sport is too woke and we don't want to watch it. March Madness is doing record numbers this month. I almost said last month, but tomorrow's April 1st, not today. March Madness is doing record numbers. What does that mean? People do genuinely love the sport of basketball in this country. They want to watch it. They want to consume it. But they're not watching the NBA. The NBA's ratings continue to go down. The NBA has not been able to top viewership going back to the 1998 NBA Finals when Michael Jordan was winning his second three-peat. They have not topped those ratings in 28 years now, despite the fact that the country has grown by tens of millions of people. So that's the problem for the NBA. There is more nuance than maybe social media wants to let you believe, but still, the problem for them is that it gave people that like to beat up the NBA reason to do it. Mike's in Olathe on KCMO. Good morning, Mike.
Yeah, they are so oblivious to the truth and to other things. When I heard this guy, I saw the post and I thought to myself, and I was actually going to call you yesterday, but you were at the K all day because of the week and because of the No Kings thing. I think of AC Green with the Lakers back in the 80s and 90s. He wore his belief system and his love for Christ on his sleeve, and he had no problem. Everybody loved AC. He was a big player and all that, but he was not like Michael Jordan, but he was a factor. But our culture has fallen so far, and you obviously know the ownership of the Bulls, what their belief system is, because it's obviously not in Christ. But then I thought of the No Kings rally this weekend, and I was thinking to myself, how ironic and how perfect. As we go into this week where we celebrate the one and only king of the universe, that they've got a No Kings rally because they don't believe in the real king either. But there's one king, and It's this week. And all this stuff just leads to the fact that we have sort of become a split society where, you either love God or you don't, and it's sort of revealed in your behavior. But in this case, man, how ironic, all these silly things coming down when we're basically celebrating the Savior of the world. The one true King is out there, and we celebrate him coming up this weekend.
Yeah, right on the heels of the big No Kings rally. And last I checked, there were no Kings on Friday, there were no Kings on Saturday, and there were no Kings on Sunday in this country because, to your point, Mike, yes, there is one true king, and it is not Donald Trump. I promise you that much.
Amen, brother.
Thank you very much there, Mike. Well said, my man. Well said. On the text line, Pete, something tells me that if this NBA player, Jaden Ivey, had ranted about Trump for an hour, nothing would have happened. Of course not. Of course not. Of course. It would have been just another day that ends in Y. That's all it would have been. No one would have even seen it or cared about it because it was on his personal Instagram. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio. All right, Tirade Tuesday. Whatever you got to get off your chest before you get to the office. This is your segment. It's the only 10 minutes of the week that you control the content. 913-408-7957. Phone lines are open. We'll do a Tirade Tuesday next.
Vince Colonnese here, and I'm coming up at 11 after Kevin Keatsman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Speaking of Vince Colonnese, have not shared this yet with this audience, but I will be filling in for the Vince Show next Thursday and Friday. So not this week, but next week, I'll be filling in Thursday and Friday for Vince Colonnese. So 11 to 2 here on KCMO and across the country. Looking forward to that, but 7 hours of radio for 2 straight days. I'm going to need your help, all right? They asked me to do it, John, and I'm like, what are you going to say? No? I'm like, sure, right. I'll do it, Thursday, Friday, figure end of the week is a good time. If it was Monday, Tuesday, I might be like, I don't know if I can do that and then do 3 more shows here on KCMO, but I figure I can power through a couple of Thursday, Friday shows. But I'll need Kansas City to show up on those Thursdays and Fridays for me here.
That's right. Got to call in, man.
Exactly. If you're a good caller here in Kansas City, you can make a great national caller as well. So that's coming up.
Victor, we're talking to you, brother.
Mike and Olathe, who just had a great call as well. So we need the best showing up next Thursday. We need the best right now. It's Tirade Tuesday. Let's do it.
It's time for Tirade Tuesday on 95.7 FM KCMO.
How dare you?
913-408-7957. The phones are open right now for you to call. John Anthony and Mark will get you on the air, get you lined up. Whatever you want to rant and rave on, it doesn't matter. You determine the content. And if it's a bust, you can't blame me. It's the only segment of the week where I say, if you didn't like it, it's not my fault. 913-408-7957 on a Tirade Tuesday. Let's start in Lenexa and go to Ashley. You're on KCMO. What is your tirade, Ashley?
Yeah, hi, Pete. So I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener of you. But my tirade today is about our local police department, and they don't seem to care about the safety of our children walking to and from school. There are signs about no parking, city codes about sidewalks needing to be cleared. We have RVs on the road, trailers blocking the sidewalks on a daily basis. When you call the city about it, they state that, well, there's another sidewalk on the other side of the road, but there's no crosswalk for the kids to get there safely.
So the Lenexa police basically thumb their nose when you bring up concerns about kids walking to school, and they say, well, there's a sidewalk over there, but you got to figure out how to get over there. There's no way to get over there is what you're telling me.
Exactly. And if you bring up the RVs and trailers and everything like that are on the roads, they say, well, they're homeowners, and so they can park there, even though they're parked right in front of a no parking sign.
We were out there in Lenexa for a Back the Blue tour, I don't know, a year ago or so, and I think they run a pretty good department. So what's that all about? Have you talked to multiple people there, or is it just 1 or 2 people who have told you this?
It's very hard to get a call back from them, honestly.
How is it hard to get a call back from Lenexa? They're not chasing around murderers all day. What's that all about?
Well, they state they are.
Oh, please. Come on. Wow. That is, that's disappointing.
It is very disappointing, and they don't prioritize the children at all. Jeez. And it really needs to be the top priority.
I would agree. I would totally agree. Thank you for that, Ashley. I hope, I want to hear about how that goes. If you have any further conversations with Lenexa PD, keep us posted.
Okay, thanks, Pete. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, good job to start off Tirade Tuesday. 913-408-7957. Whatever you got to rant about, now's the time to do it. John will pick you up, get you on hold. 913-408-7957. Mike and Shawnee, go.
Pete, my tirade is a call center, people who speak English as a second language. And special accolades to those where the call center reps are all in one room and the background noise sounds a little bit like when you're at a casino.
That is so good. You're spot on with that. That's a very good complaint, Mike. I won't ask you to roll any companies under the bus, but it's a very, very good complaint.
Well, thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Get that off my chest.
I'm glad you did, brother. This is what it's all about here on Tirade Tuesday. It's why one of our brand new partners on the show, Kansas City Peer, KC Peer, they're your foundation experts. One of the things that they want to make sure that I brag about on behalf of them is that when you call them with a foundation issue or concern here in Kansas City, they've got a real, live, local person in Kansas City who picks up the phone. And I can promise you that English is their first language at KC Peer, okay? I've met them. I've talked to them. Trust me, you're all good there. Nothing to worry about. 913-408-7957, Tirade Tuesday. Paul in Kansas City, go.
Hey, Pete, my tirade said our so-called European allies, the Spanish government just denied us airspace for our military aircraft going on this righteous mission in Iran. The British can't even get a frigate out of Portsmouth, a boat that's not even bigger than Bezos' yacht. The money that we spent, Pete, during the Cold War when I was over there in West Germany, you couldn't walk in West Germany without running into American GI. They've been sponging on. It's really, and the president came out last night with a couple of posts, and he's dead spot on. This is an outrage.
Yeah, those were pretty good posts, Paul, and I'm glad you weren't tirading on me accidentally giving you the cold shoulder at Keatsman's event a couple of weeks ago. So I still feel so bad about it, Paul, but that's a very good tirade. You're spot on, brother. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it, brother. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Yeah, Trump posting this morning on Truth Social. I got to find it. He's been active this morning. Here it is. And then we'll get to your tirades at 913-408-7957. Here's the post from President Trump 2 hours ago. All those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. We have plenty. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Go to the Strait and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part's done. Go get your own oil. President DJT. Doesn't that feel... it feels so good to read that. Not that I don't think we should be allies. Obviously, it's best when we have a united West. I want us to get along with the UK. But I'm really getting tired of the freeloading around here. And that's most of Europe at this point. I'm really sick of the freeloading. 913-408-7957. Line them up. Phones are open on a Tirade Tuesday. Let's go to Steve in KCK. What's up, Steve? What's your tirade?
The people of the No Kings rally, and the media, they pretty much made Alex Creddy and Renee Good household words. You know, people know these names forwards and backwards. Two idiots who would have made better choices, they would still be alive, but they made dumb choices. People don't know the names. What's not a household name is like Kate Steinle, Laken Riley. The list goes on and on. Molly Tibbetts, Sarah Ray. These names aren't as prominent in the media. These victims of these illegal immigrants and what ICE trying to do is not as prominent as Renee, who is dead good, and Alex Pretty Boy Pretty. I'm sick and tired of the idiots getting more name status and recognition than true victims of true crime. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, thank you very much there. I appreciate it, Steve. There is certainly a lot of that going on. 913-408-7957. Let's go to Mark in Overland Park. Go ahead, Mark.
Pete, how much does it cost to have kids put their cell phones at school? The new law says it's going to cost $13 million for them to monitor these cell phones. How much does it cost to just put them in a box each day, have the teachers monitor that? No wonder the state spends money. We run a deficit every year. It's ridiculous.
That's well said, Mark. I haven't talked about that yet this morning, but I'm going to get to more of that here coming up. That's a great tirade. I mean, seeing the Kansas public school systems complain, oh, this new cell phone policy banning cell phones, it's going to cost us a lot of money. Really? Why aren't the private schools complaining right now? You haven't heard a peep from a private school that I can tell. The public schools immediately say, oh, new policy. How much can we fleece the taxpayer for this? And it's not the teachers. It's always the same crowd. It's some union thug. It's some administrator who no one knows what they do and is wildly overpaid. It's always the same people. I don't mean to steal your tirade, Mark, but that's a good one. All right, Stephen Lee Summit, go.
Hey, good morning, Pete. My tirade is about the state of all the trash in the medians on 150 and 291 in Lee Summit. It just looks like a landfill exploded there. And it's been that way since I moved to Lee Summit about a year and a half ago. And I know both of them are state roads, but I've just really aggravated. It's embarrassing driving down 150, between State Line Road and 291, and then also the medians of 291 from, Cass County all the way up into Lee Summit. Just embarrassing.
You're right. It's on the state, Steve, but hey, we have Beto Lopez coming on tomorrow. He's running for mayor of Lee Summit, so I'll ask him about that if we have the time. It's a good point. Jeff and Shawnee, go. What's your tirade?
Hey, all you guys out there protesting No Kings and spending all the weekends out there, hey, do me a favor. Do something constructive. Go out and try to find registered Democratic voters. Put your time to a better use than impeding traffic and just, holding everybody up. Go out and do something good. Get you some voters, man.
Well, can I break some news to you, Jeff? That is basically these No Kings rallies are just big voter registration drives.
You think they're working?
You know what? If they get one person to register for them, then yeah, I'd say they are working.
Yeah, I would just be going door to door and trying to get voters, man. I just
why go door to door when you can get people to come to you?
I just think that makes the Republicans more stronger saying that out there. Who knows?
Listen, I there's no doubt, Jeff, that you can make fun of these No Kings rallies all day. I mean, it is a who's who of delusional, crazy, bizarre, strange folks. There's no doubt about it. But you know what? If they're registering people to vote and they're going to turn out for them in November, then who's getting the last laugh?
I hear you. I hear you. No, it looks like a circus out there. There's no doubt. So, yeah. Take care, bud.
It does. Thank you very much. Brian in Weston, Tirade Tuesday. Go.
Hey, Pete, I was thinking about, when you go to a Mexican restaurant, they bring you a salsa and chips. And it used to be when you got your bill, they'd bring you mints, for indigestion. And, we're all about making America great again. I think restaurants, they need to bring mints again because you got to wait till you get out to your vehicle to get some Tums or something like that for indigestion. So I think we need to get mints again at the restaurants. So.
Brian wants mints again at the restaurant. Brian, what about controlling how fast and how much and what exactly you're eating so the indigestion's not a problem?
Well, that's true, but they could bring some Tums or something.
Yeah.
Or bring some mints at least.
Okay. All right, Brian wants his mints. He wants his mints. Thank you, Brian.
Take mints.
See you later, my man. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good.
I'm not worth your Red Lobster money.
I don't know, man. Inflation's hitting these restaurants hard.
I always thought it was for your breath.
That's kind of what I thought, too. Thought it was just a breath thing. I mean, if you need Tums after eating at a restaurant, I mean, that's not on the restaurant to bring you Tums.
I like mints.
Just get yourself home as quickly as possible, okay? Don't use the public restroom, Brian, please. Don't do that to the rest of us. Don't do it, all right?
Show some RESPICT.
Tirade Tuesday's in the books. Great to have you here on KCMO 95.7 FM. We're streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We have Dave Traubert, Kansas Policy Institute. Coming up next hour, do not miss that here on KCMO. I want to touch on something that Mark just alluded to. One of our callers was talking about the cell phone policies. Here's what's happening in local news when it comes to how this is now being pitched and sold. It's great policy by the state of Kansas getting cell phones out of the classroom, but of course someone's got to find a reason to complain about it. What's going on there? We'll tell you next.
from Lenexa to Lee Summit. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
I don't want to hear the whining. I do not want to hear the whining. I don't want to hear the complaining. I don't. They actually get something done for the kids in Topeka. They do something bipartisan, and you've got whining and moaning, especially from people in Johnson County Public Schools, mostly administrators. So we talked about this last week when it passed. Bipartisan measure passing that is a bell-to-bell cell phone ban in the state of Kansas. And this has been universally applauded by regular people all across the state. And by the way, Kansas, as reported yesterday by KCTV5, is now one of only 4 states in the nation to earn an A grade for banning student cell phone use throughout the entire school day. 4 organizations announced yesterday that Kansas has achieved the top ranking to their phone-free schools state report card. These organizations include the Anxious Generation Movement, Smartphone Free Childhood US, and the Institute for Families and Technology. Governor Kelly signed the bill. It was sponsored by Republican Senator Chase Blassie and Democratic Senator Dina Sykes out of Lenexa, and it got done in the state of Kansas. I think it's the biggest win in Topeka. Not that there have been a lot of big wins, unless you're Clark Hunt, but it's been the biggest win in Topeka for regular people and parents this year. Not even close. All right? So we should all be celebrating this. Instead, you have pieces like this from Channel 41, headlined, "School Leaders Raise Budget Concerns Over Kansas Cell Phone Ban." You got to be kidding me. I mean, this is right where they want to go to is, we're going to need some money for that. We're going to need a few more dollars to make this work. Here's what they're saying. Blue Valley School Superintendent Jillian Chapman told Channel 41 she's not against limiting distractions, but that a one-size-fits-all statewide policy ignores what is already working locally. We have a policy in place that works really well that does not cost us valuable resources. The Blue Valley superintendent is concerned that the new law will require the district to use already limited funding and resources to create ways to collect and store devices for hundreds or even thousands of students. Because the mandate comes without government funding, the cost will fall directly on the schools. Cry me a freaking river. My goodness. They have no self-awareness. They have none. They are so caught up in their little bubbles that they can't see the forest through the trees, man, for a second. They have no ability to do it. All you have to do is figure out how to get the phones out of the kids' hands when they get into school and get out of school. And guess what? Yeah, I looked it up on the kansasopengov.org website. I mean, they've got, at the Blue Valley School District alone, several dozen employees making $150,000 a year. Take one of them, put them in charge of a room where their cell phones are stored, and then figure out a way to get them back to the kids at the end of the school day. That's it.
Need a place to store them. Just keep them in your pocket, kid.
Well, no, you got to give them up. You got to give them up. That's the point.
Well, I mean, you're just not supposed to use them in general, right?
No. You got to unload them somewhere.
Unfortunately, you have to do that, I guess, right? I got a bunch of Chewy boxes from the cat food I get every 2 weeks. They're piling up in my house. We can store them in my Chewy cat food boxes.
Yes, that's what I mean. Each class gets its own Chewy box, okay?
Yeah.
You walk into school, you throw them in the boxes, and you pick them up at the end of the day. And you put a couple of administrators in charge of the room where the cell phones are to make sure no one's stealing phones. That's it. I mean, I know I'm oversimplifying this, but I'm doing it to make a point here. These school districts that are just whining about, oh, boy, the cell phone plan, how are we going to fund this whole thing? I'm looking at the numbers here, okay? You've got a lot of highly paid administrators who probably have a little bit of free time in their day to help figure out how to make this work. And instead of saying, wow, you know what? Even if you already have a policy like this, it's great that the state of Kansas does something for the kids to get the phones out of their hands during the day. And now, by the way, you don't have to listen to the mother who insists that her kid have their phone on them all day complain, you can say, it's state law, ma'am. I'm sorry. There's nothing we can do about it. You can now, I don't want to say hide behind state law, but you can justify good policy by now using state law instead of having some crazy mom yelling at the poor secretary in the school district. This is fantastic news. And if your immediate reaction, if you're an administrator, and I mean, I don't know what the Blue Valley superintendent's making. She's new this year. I know the last superintendent, Tanya Merrigan, was clearing $440,000 a year, which, whatever. God bless her. This is America. But you look at the Blue Valley School District and do not tell me you don't have the resources for something. Nobody wants to hear that, okay? Everybody's property taxes are to the moon right now. And a lot of that's going to you. And to have the balls to go on and talk on local TV about not having the resources for something in Blue Valley? My goodness, the audacity from some of these people is truly disgusting. Unbelievable.
With that, we wrap up a Tirade Tuesday.
Yeah, I guess we extended Tirade Tuesday this morning.
It's a bonus round.
Oh my gosh, that just really just ticks me off. It really does.
I'm getting pissed now.
It's a good time for a break here, Mark.
Yeah, it is. All right, got to go to break. News in a minute. We're back. Dave Traubert's next hour and more on KCMO. We got an update on Iran, but before I get to that, I just want to put a bow on this last conversation. It's amazing to me how this is fascinating. This cell phone ban in Kansas, the bell-to-bell cell phone ban that's going in for public schools starting in September. It's weird. It's not partisan. There are Republicans who don't like it, and there are Democrats who don't like it. In the school districts, you have some Democrats who insist it's going to cost a lot of money to fund this thing. And then you have Republicans like this on the text line. I'm assuming this person leans to the right, but I don't know for sure. This person writes here, cell phones can be a distraction. Do we need big government requiring compliance? Local boards of education do work. Well, first off, they don't. Okay, we've seen plenty of examples of that around Johnson County in particular. And then number two, I mean, this is what state government should be doing. This is kind of part of the job. Protect kids. Okay.
Remind me why we're here?
Yeah. Yes.
Why are we having this conversation?
Exactly. I mean, how local do you want to make local government? Like, should cities just decide, what the drinking age is going to be, and if marijuana should be legal, and just let Olathe and Overland Park have different laws and rules and regulations for booze and marijuana and sports betting and cell phone usage and everything else? No, there are certain things that the state should be in charge of. And when the data is overwhelming about how the phones are a clear distraction, do not add anything positive to the classroom with the kids, then you know what? When you have the data to back it up, then get rid of them. It's that simple. Some people have brought up, indoctrination in schools. I need my kid to be filming the teacher because the kid's going to be indoctrinated. If you're that concerned, get him out of that school. There's now open enrollment in Kansas. You don't have to send them private. You don't have to homeschool. You can do those things if you want, but you can also enroll in a different public school in Kansas. That's an option for you now. I mean, the tragic school shooting, if you have that little faith in the people that run your school, then get them out of the school. If you don't trust the administrators, if you don't feel like you can trust your local police department, then that's on you. But these school classrooms, these teachers should not have to play babysitter to the cell phone because of those issues that are one in, not just a million, even more than that. And, the odds of every single adult involved, like what happened down in Texas a few years ago, going wrong, that's not a reason to not have this policy. It's not.
If you're concerned about government in the school, I see that ship sailed out there on the horizon.
Yeah, that's true, John. That's very true. I've calmed down, though. Boy, did no one needed a commercial break like me.
That was a pretty quick lap you took around the building.
And it wasn't naked this time either. Okay, this morning, Pete Hegseth gave an update from the Pentagon. The Secretary of War was speaking about the war in Iran, and he followed up on a couple of very important Truth Social posts from the President of the United States when he said this about the Strait of Hormuz, which, of course, is where a lot of the oil is coming through or supposed to come through that goes to the rest of the world. And because the oil has not been getting through, we're seeing gas prices as of this morning top $4 a gallon on average around the country. Here's what Pete Hegseth had to say.
On the Strait of Hormuz, there are many more vessels flowing through today than there were, as the president has arranged. The president's been clear to Iran, open it for business, or we have options, and we certainly do. And when you look at what the chairman laid out with the Navy industrial base, with coastal cruise missiles, with UAVs, with counter-mine capabilities, we've been focused from the beginning on attriting and defeating those capabilities and limiting their options. There's lots we're doing as well, some of which is known, some of which is not known, to set the conditions. And I think the president was clear this morning in his truth that there are countries around the world who ought to be prepared to step up on this critical waterway as well. It's not just the United States Navy. Last time I checked, there was supposed to be a big bad Royal Navy that could be prepared to do things like that as well. So he's pointing out this is an international waterway that we use less than most, in fact, dramatically less than most. So the world ought to pay attention and be prepared to stand up. President Trump's been willing to do the heavy lifting on behalf of the free world to address this threat of Iran. It's not just our problem set going forward, even though we have done the lion's share of preparation to ensure that strait will be open, which is an outcome the president's been very clear on.
So you're seeing there what's actually happening as well on the world stage is all of the accusations that the president has lobbed against basically all of Europe going back 10 years, that they're a bunch of freeloaders. They're actually proving themselves to be a bunch of freeloaders here over the last 4 weeks of this war. You know, they'll sit there and they'll say, well, we didn't start this, so you open up the Strait of Hormuz. And the president says in a Truth Social this morning, all of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. We have plenty. Number two, build up some delayed courage. Build up some delayed courage. What a line. And go to the Strait and take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't fighting there for us. Sounds like a dad talking to his son. Listen, little Johnny, it's time to step up to the plate here and, stop expecting me to protect you and go fight for yourself there on the school playground. But he's right. And this was, in many ways, an opportunity for the UKs of the world, France, so many others, to step up and realize, by the way, that removing nuclear capabilities from Iran is, yes, beneficial to us in the United States. It's beneficial to Israel. It's also wildly beneficial to Europe. And these guys and gals in charge of these countries over there continue to prove that they are not either wanting to have any long-term vision on this stuff. They're just flying by, seat of their pants, day to day, not worried about what tomorrow might bring, while we actually have some vision as to what we want the world to look like. And then when we say, hey, we're going to need your help here a little bit, and this is also very beneficial to you, and they basically say, we didn't cause this. This is exactly what this president has been railing on you guys for a decade. You proved his point. You proved him to be exactly right in defining who you are and who you've been for far too long on the world stage. And by the way, I wish that Trump was wrong about this. I wish that, the UK and France and so many others actually proved Trump wrong here over the last few weeks and said, you know what? We're going to be there right by your side, United States. Taking away the nuclear capabilities from Iran is great for us. It's great for our allies. It's great for the region. It's fantastic for Europe. We're going to prove you wrong, Donald Trump. They had a chance to do it. And instead, they have proven to be everything that Trump has criticized them for so long. And it's not good for Trump that he's right. Think about it. Like, Trump's right, but deep down, I don't think he's glad that he's right. He'd rather be wrong. Not that he would ever admit that, but he'd rather be wrong in this case. But instead, he's been proven right. Coming up, speaking of people that have been proven right around here, Dave Traubert's been sounding the alarm bell on getting something done on the Kansas side of the state line as it relates to property taxes. Where are we at as we head down the home stretch in Topeka of this legislative session? Dave will be here coming up on KCMO.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO.
Can Kansas get it done? It's the top issue that's been getting attention for the last at least couple of years, and it seems like it won't if you were a betting person right now, but there's still one more chance for the Kansas legislature to get some kind of property tax reform done when they return on April 9th. Dave Traubert is here, of course, with the Kansas Policy Institute, their CEO on KCMO. All right, Dave, give us the lay of the land. Where do things stand right now ahead of their return on April the 9th?
Well, good morning, Pete. It's good to be here. The kind of theme going through Topeka for the last 2 years has been everybody says they support property tax relief, but the unspoken part for many of them is as long as it doesn't cause any discomfort to local government. That's where they draw the line. The objections that we've heard are it's not fair, it's going to make government work a little harder, or people don't understand what really needs to take place, and we need to listen to local government officials. They're both kind of condescending, frankly. The good news is the House did pass House Bill 2745. Both chambers passed it. That will allow voters to basically veto property tax increases that are more than inflation. It's a protest petition process so that when you get your revenue neutral notice, you would be told if the increase is subject to a protest petition, and you could actually sign your revenue neutral letter, send it back, and that counts as a signature toward it. The bad news is it barely passed both chambers, and Governor Kelly is expected to veto it because she's always going to side with government against taxpayers. So what we need in the next week is a couple of dozen legislators in the House and Senate to flip their votes and stand with taxpayers.
All right. And how confident are you that that can happen coming up starting on April 9th?
Well, it can happen. And I've talked to a few legislators who've indicated, yeah, they probably will switch. I don't know if there's enough. It's going to take a lot of pressure. We published the story on the Sentinel that includes a list of a link to the people who didn't vote for it and contact information. So you can just get in touch and say, please override the veto on 2745.
Okay, and just if you were to explain to people what that bill does in its most simplest form, how would you explain it?
It gives you the ability to sign a protest petition and stop property tax increases by a city, a county, a school district, whatever, that is more than inflation. So this is on the revenue that the taxing authority can take in. It's not your own property. But instead of, we've had some like Kansas City, Kansas did a 12% property tax increase this year. You could hold it to 2.5. Actually, I take that back. 2.5 is probably the inflationary limit. But if your protest petition is successful, they're not allowed to do any kind of a tax increase for a year.
This is so weird to me. I'm looking at some of these names of people who are voting against the mill rate limit in the Senate. I mean, it's not just Democrats. There are many Republicans on this list. And, I'm looking at like Ron Reichman. I mean, this guy just watched his son on behalf of the Chiefs fleece the taxpayers, and now in Western Kansas, he can't vote on behalf of a mill rate limit for regular Kansans. I mean, I just find that gross. And there's a lot of people on here that you and I both know that I think overall do a solid job, whether it's, Adam Thomas or Doug Shane or some of these other people. And I don't know what the deal is, but they can't get on board with this stuff. What's going on with the Republicans in particular?
Well, there's some of them have legitimate issues with maybe one aspect of the bill, But what you have to look at the whole thing in context and say, is my objection here worth not giving people tax relief? And I think if people will look at it broadly in that way, they'll say, well, no, it's not that big of a deal, but I'd really like to have something change. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to do something different, but we're out of time. You have to look at it and say, there is no legitimate reason to vote against this unless you really want local governments to be able to raise taxes as much as they want.
What's going to be harder, the House or the Senate?
The House. The Senate, we only need to get 5 votes to flip. So that's not bad. We have to get 21 to flip in the House.
21.
That's a much bigger lift.
Yeah.
21.
Jeez.
And some of those people who voted against it are current or former county commissioners.
How is it allowed? How is it allowed in Kansas where you can be a county commissioner or a city council member and be a state rep?
Well, there's no prohibition on it. I mean, you have people.
Is that
who,
unique though to Kansas, or is that happening in other states?
That happens everywhere. I mean, I get the notion that it seems like you maybe have a conflict of interest. There's a lot of people that have that concern, but it's not just cities and counties. You have people who are current employees of one of the universities, and they're voting on university budgets. There's all kinds of things like that, and it's frankly hard to get some people to run for office, and if you start putting restrictions on that, it makes it even more challenging. Hopefully, you get people who will go in there knowing that regardless of where they work, they're going to represent the people who elected them. It doesn't often happen, as we can see with property tax reforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Dave, I am hopeful that the work can get done behind the scenes. We'll see. But this will have implications on the governor's race as well, as you well know, because, I mean, they all go around screaming about property tax relief. But if they can't get it done in leadership, why would being governor be any different? And I think that's a fair question to ask going forward.
Well, speaking of that, now the leadership in the Senate has been firmly behind. They passed a really strong assessment limit. It was a 30-10 vote. We even had 2 Democrats, Patrick Schmidt out of Topeka and David Haley in Wyandotte County, vote for the 3% assessment limit. Mm-hmm. The House wants nothing to do with something that low. Now, there is a way that they could compromise if they really want to help taxpayers. That's on the Kansas Policy site, where there's an idea being floated around that instead of having a rolling average of everyone's property, which means about 2 million rolling averages, have one. There's a way, if you just base it on the change in all property, that keeps it in a range of somewhere between 3 and 6%. So it's a really good protection. But you're going to have both sides be willing to give something.
Yeah.
And they can still do that. They can come back and get this done when they come back next week.
Dave Traubert, Kansas Policy Institute. Great job, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
There you go. Dave Traubert, good work on KCMO Talk Radio. Our caller of the day tied into something that Harris Faulkner from Fox News said on this show. I'll share those both with you next.
from Leawood to Liberty. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
9:35, Keesman Uncanceled takes over at 10 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio. Every morning at this time, we play our caller of the day. Before we do it, let me just set it up and share with you the story, which you may have seen, you may have not seen. The Chicago Bulls, and I know you're like, wait, this guy's about to talk about the NBA? Yes, I am. But that's because it ties in sports and culture and faith and politics and all of these things into one story that exploded last night when the Chicago Bulls cut this guy, Jaden Ivey, 24-year-old, young player, obviously. He just got traded from the Detroit Pistons. He's not played lately because of injuries. Yes, he's in the last year of his contract. So I do think there's more nuance than the outrage would lead you to believe based on what you see on social media. But still, the reality is this guy was cut because he shared his faith on his Instagram page, and he shared the fact that he disagreed with the NBA celebrating Pride. Here's what he said.
The world can proclaim LGBTQ. Right? They proclaim Pride Month and the NBA. They proclaim it. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month, to celebrate unrighteousness. They proclaim it.
So those comments got Jaden Ivey cut by the Chicago Bulls. And once again, these comments were not during a game, not in a post-game press conference, not before a game to any media, just on his personal Instagram page. And I've always said that's where any athlete should put their personal political beliefs, on their personal pages. It's not like he hijacked the Chicago Bulls Instagram account and is like, yeah, I disagree with Pride Month and Pride Month. Like, he didn't do that. He did it on his personal page. If there's a place to do it, that's where you should want athletes to do it. That's what I've said going back to Kaepernick. If he was a political activist in the offseason, in his spare time, I don't think anybody could have been critical of the guy. It's bringing it to the field where it becomes a problem. Jaden Ivey didn't do that, but it got him cut by the Chicago Bulls last night. And the Bulls put out a very brief statement, and all that statement read was as follows. The Chicago Bulls announced today that the team has waived guard Jaden Ivey due to conduct detrimental to the team. Now, the reality is also this. If he was averaging 25 points a night, he's probably still on the team. Because in sports, athlete privilege is real. The better you are, the more you get away with. Whether it's DUIs, whether it's beating up women, or whether it's commenting on Pride Night. The better you are, the more you get away with in sports. And, you know, I hate to say it, but that's true in the real world as well, in corporate America. Is it right? Well, probably not, but it is true. It does happen. But this conversation obviously led to our caller of the day and the fact that the NBA continues to sink in its own wokeness. Here we go.
Hello? It's the Mundo in the Morning caller of the day on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Mike's in Olathe on KCMO. Good morning, Mike.
Yeah, they are so oblivious to the truth and to other things. When I heard this guy, I saw the post and I thought to myself, and I was actually going to call you yesterday, but you were at the K all day because of the week and because of the No Kings thing. I think of AC Green with the Lakers back in the 80s and 90s. He wore his belief system and his love for Christ on his sleeve, and he had no problem. Everybody loved AC. He was a big player and all that, but he was not like Michael Jordan, but he was a factor. But our culture has fallen so far, and you obviously know the ownership of the Bulls, what their belief system is, because it's obviously not in Christ. But then I thought of the No Kings rally this weekend, and I was thinking to myself, how ironic and how perfect. As we go into this week where we celebrate the one and only king of the universe, that they've got a No Kings rally because they don't believe in the real king either. But there's one king, And
Yes.
it's this week. And all this stuff just leads to the fact that we have sort of become a split society where, you know, you either love God or you don't, and it's sort of revealed in your behavior. But in this case, man, how ironic, all these silly things coming down when we're basically celebrating the Savior of the world. The one true King is out there, and we celebrate him coming up this weekend.
That's well said. I don't know if Mike wrote that down like Victor in Parkville does with his calls and monologues on the show, but that was excellent work by Mike and Aletha.
Had a few extra hours there. He was going to say it yesterday, but
yeah, that's true.
He polished it a little bit, maybe.
24 hours to refine his comments. So nice job there by Mike and Aletha. Tight, to the point, excellent points as well on KCMO. He's our caller of the day, which wins you absolutely nothing. But congratulations, Mike. Well-deserved, my man. Very well-deserved. And, you know, the bigger problem for the NBA is that also what they've done here, at a time when March Madness is setting viewership records, it shows you people love basketball in this country. They don't love the NBA. They don't like the NBA. The politics are a big part of it. You've got the load management. That's a big part of it. Guys just take off random nights. You can't buy a ticket to an NBA game and guarantee you'll see the players that you want to see because they might just be taking the night off. They don't want to play. They need a day off. Baseball, you get it with 162 games. You know, the catcher might not play in the day game after a night game, right? Or you DH the catcher, whatever it might be. In basketball, there's no rhyme or reason. Guys just, you know, hey, I don't want to play. Need to rest. Second game of a back-to-back. They don't want to do it. And yes, the politics have just really hurt the NBA in a big way. And this gave people who already are like, not sure I really want to watch that product. Not sure I want the politics involved with that product. Another reason to look at the NBA and say, this is why I'm not watching it. Now, this morning we had on Harris Faulkner of Fox News. She joined us this morning to talk about her kid getting ready for college, taking the college tour there. Harris going all over the SEC and the ACC. She'll be down in Austin, Texas. She said she's coming to Jayhawk country. She didn't say Wildcat or Tiger country. She said Jayhawk country. So I guess she'll take a visit with her daughter to KU. But we also talked about the serious stuff. The war going on right now in Iran, the fact that it is Holy Week, and how she tries to piece these two things together right now during this critical time in American history. Here was Fox News' Harris Faulkner this morning right here on KCMO.
Well, we just passed the day for Vietnam veterans. You know, it's when we remember them specifically. That's always in, the end of March. And so I think of people like my father who love this country so much. They went very far away places in her name, and they were dedicated. And of course, he did it, as civil rights were still going on, the fight for civil rights, and then, the 60s where we were going to see the fruit of America coming together, and that's what we were prayerful about. But then we were in Vietnam, and I, wasn't born for the time when he entered the military. But I do know that it didn't take perfection for my father to love this country. And because he said, I don't expect perfection, I expect production. We are the mightiest, we are the best. He said things will change, and then they will change, and then they will change. And as long as that change is progress, we'll remain the best. So what I think about right now are those people who, look, you don't have to agree with what we're doing in Iran. In fact, you should express it if you don't do it in a peaceful manner, because that's what our democracy is built on. We are a republic. Express yourself. We have a constitution. But what I am concerned about are those people who express hate in the name of all of it, who would cozy up with our enemies and root against our country, who would say, no, we want, a situation in the Middle East where we don't engage and we don't advocate. My gosh, the Iranian American population in Los Angeles, haven't we seen how big it is as they celebrate? Because their families are now no longer under the thumb of the Ayatollah Khomeini. Now, we keep hearing, about the next wave of whoever the leadership is going to be. I mean, Operation Roaring Lion, which is Israel's, couplet with Operation Epic Fury, has taken out generations of people who call themselves leaders, both militarily and governmentally. So, just some of these were very older people kind of in the back, and then kind of middle-aged and even younger trying to step up and fill those shoes so that they can keep what they had. But it's breaking apart now. And what I want to think about as we go into a point of resurrection is that we are willing to, as Americans, admit that the soul of this country needs a bit of redemption and resurrection. That it shouldn't just be about politics, but that we see the bigger picture, that the world's eyes are on us. We are still the beacon, that we resurrect that awareness of who we are, not pridefully, but boldly and with purpose. And with the idea that we can help others like no one else. We can be that shining light on a hill. And that we aspire to be that even when we don't agree. That's what's on my heart.
Harris Faulkner this morning right here on KCMO. If you missed the entire conversation, it will be up on the podcast after the show. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, search Pete Mundo, and you can subscribe right there. That way you never miss the interviews that we air right here on KCMO Talk Radio. Speaking of Harris and Fox News, there was a bizarre back and forth yesterday on her show that went viral. We have not played it yet this morning. We will to wrap it up next here on KCMO.
From Gladstone to Gardner, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Last week, the Olympic Committee banned dudes competing as women in the Olympics. So that was a great decision that came down late last week. It was debated yesterday on Fox News' Outnumber, which Harris Faulkner is obviously a regular on. And it went viral because, they always have a staple person on the left side of the aisle that ends up on that show. They had Marie Harf there on the couch yesterday. And take a listen to how this all went down as Fox News' Marie Harf tries to justify dudes competing as women in the Olympics.
My point is, I do think that Donald Trump used this to great effect by preying on people's fears of trans people. And look, I think sometimes people do have questions. Who should play what sports? Who should get married? I don't think that all the questions are necessarily coming from a bad place.
This is an 80-20 issue, but remain on the 20% side and see how it works out.
It's about why are we so scared of trans people?
It's about providing clarity. We're scared of biological men wrestling women. Wait. I don't want to get this lost. Do you want a biological man wrestling a woman? Do you want a biological man spiking a volleyball at a woman?
Honestly, I don't care.
Wow.
I genuinely don't care. There are co-ed sports being played at the elementary school level across this country today.
Woo, baby. Look at that from Maria. You have a dude spike that volleyball right into a young woman's face. I don't care. See, that's why ahead of the midterms, by the way, listen, history would suggest Democrats are going to have a good year in the midterms. And right now, despite the fact that I agree with how we're handling Iran, short term, gas prices up. People don't care about, the big picture. They're going to be like, all right, we need something new. That's what they're going to do. But notice how the strategy, and we talked to Harris Faulkner about this, is all about Trump. It's not about what they believe in, because if you go into what they believe in, you get crazy like this. Just absolutely nutso. And if you don't know, so Marie Harf, just a real quick backstory. Marie Harf did a radio show with Guy Benson that launched in 2018. It was right after I got here to Kansas City. I came here to Kansas City in part because I thought I might have had the inside track on a nighttime radio show with Fox that I was doing a lot of fill-in work for after Alan Combs died. I was doing a bunch of shows. Guy Benson was doing a bunch of shows. They gave it to Guy Benson and Marie Harf, and then I skipped town, and we start year 9 of this show coming up in 2 days. So it worked out for everybody. Except for Marie Harf, who got booted from the radio show, now appears occasionally on Fox and is saying wacky stuff like that. And Guy Benson got his own show after the show between the two of them went down in flames. And from what I heard, she did not make it easy. I'll just say that much. She was not easy to work with on that show from people that I know who were a part of that show. But do with that what you want. Just a nutso clip. We also have this to wrap it up here. Updated just 30 minutes ago from the New York Post. Tiger Woods allegedly had 2 pills stashed in his pocket when he was busted on DUI charges in Florida. They had M367 marked on them. Hydrocodone, an opioid used to treat chronic pain, according to this New York Post report. When asked if he took any prescription meds, Woods allegedly told arresting officers, "I take a few." So that's the latest on the sad story around Tiger Woods. Quick question to put a bow on the morning. Would you rather ride shotgun with Tiger Woods on a 12-hour drive or spend 12 seconds at a No Kings protest? That's a toughie, man. That's a toughie. I'll let you chew on that. Keatsman's next. Have a great day.